Hey everyone, Old School Pokemon here, back again with the PokeFlipz podcast, joined by my usual co-host, KetchumAllCollectibles Dan. And today we've got a special guest joining us. We got Sam from Master Set Gaming. How are you both doing today?
Very well. How are you?
I'm doing good.
How's
Doing
it going,
well.
Sam?
Excited to be here.
Master Set Games, not Master Set Gaming. Come on, Nick.
Dang it.
All right.
Come on.
There's a lot of people that say Master
made
Set
the
Game
thumbnail
too.
and everything.
I'll forgive you this one time.
You're on thin ice, though. As we always do, we're going to hang out for about 3 hours, Q&A, talk about whatever's on your mind. Feel free to leave your questions in the chat. I will star them as I go. Nick, Sam, and myself will probably recap our last weekend, Chicago Collecticon. We'll probably start there while you guys are formulating and posting your questions. And then, look to have a good afternoon, good end to your week. What do you guys think? What is your quick summation of Chicago Collecticon? What was your big takeaway? Like, how'd your experience go?
I had a great time there. I really enjoyed it. It was nice now that I'm in Chicago. It was really nice not having to fly or drive far to actually get there. So I'm hoping they do the Chicago every year now that I'm here. I was a little surprised, honestly, though. I thought Chicago was going to be the biggest Collecticon of the year, just because of how many people in our group were talking about it. But I think New Jersey was by far the biggest one, just from like the lines of people that you saw outside. There really weren't any big lines. You could always kind of walk around the convention. It wasn't like packed like New Jersey was Saturday afternoon. So I was a little surprised by that. But overall, it was a really good time. I had an absolute blast.
Yeah, I wish Collecticon would announce their ticket sales, like how many feet walk through the door. That's just a useful stat in general, like especially if you're like thinking about vending.
Yeah, they're actually one group of people that we would love to have on sometime. I'm not sure if they'll ever come on, but getting that insight, getting that information would be amazing. Like, hey, 2024. Well, after I think Houston is in a couple weeks, right? If they would just show, even if they didn't give, maybe they don't want to give specific numbers because they don't want people figuring out how much money they make exactly, or whatever the reason may be. Throw it on a chart and don't give us the y-axis. Like don't give us the units on the y-axis. So just show proportionally what they were. Like that would be awesome to see. But I'm not sure that transparency will ever come. It would be great, but we'll see. I'm kind of in the same spot as Nick, though. Like, I definitely expected Chicago to be a fair bit bigger, but I was only there Saturday. It was nice that the line wasn't crazy, and maybe logistically, maybe they changed something slightly. I don't really know. I had a vendor badge. I went in early. I've never really, been in that VIP line, been in that general admission line, so I don't really know if anything changed on that front. I know certain ones, they've been very strict with, checking all the bags very, very closely, taking out food and drink and things like that. And then some of them, it's like people just get in willy-nilly without any check whatsoever. So, not sure what was up there, but I'll be doing a full recap, little self-promotion, self-plug here. Monday, I haven't recorded it yet, but I always do my full hour-long recap of the weekend. I'll be doing that on Monday, so I won't get too in-depth. But I didn't vend. Nick, you didn't vend either. You just sourced.
Yep.
I did a little bit of sourcing. I may or may not have bought a pretty expensive item, high quantity of a lot of gray felt hat Pikachus. So that'll make for some fun content, fun videos, maybe some wreckage down the line, maybe making a bunch of money down the line. I don't know. But so talk a little bit more, Nick, about your sourcing. Talk, Sam, you had a booth, you vended, but I think sounds like you sourced a bunch too.
Yeah. Definitely both. It's always both.
It's got to be
Sorry,
both,
Nick,
right?
you want to go ahead?
Oh, no, you're good. You're good. You can keep going.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice for me. The con, I actually have a direct flight to to Chicago, to O'Hare. And then the con was like 5 minutes, 5-minute drive from the airport, which was, I think, the closest it's ever been, like with a big Collecticon. very convenient. I was worried when it was posted that it was going to be in Chicago, that it was going to be like downtown. As fun as downtown Chicago is, it's a nightmare to get to. The airport to downtown could take an hour and a half or 2 hours, depending on traffic. You're probably better off taking like, I don't know, what do they call it there? Amtrak, whatever one it is, the train. But it was really nice, super convenient. And then, I vended. I had 2 tables, and then I was like, whenever it got slow, I would just walk around and buy from other stores and vendors. That's usually what I do. So a lot of both.
Well, have you run the numbers yet? I mean, it is so recently. It is so soon after Collecticon. Like, were you a net buyer or a net seller overall?
It was actually right around equal, which is rare for us. Usually it swings one way or the other. I either go way too hard buying, or I just sell like so much stuff that it's hard to buy enough, like at a good price. This one, it was almost a net zero, which is rare.
Is it kind of like 50-50, like net buying versus net selling, just kind of randomly?
Yeah, like over the whole weekend. Is that like what you mean? Like
like all the past Collecticons for the year. It sounds like
okay.
Some were net buying, some were net selling. Like overall, you probably went to like what? Did you go to all of them? Like 12 of them?
I've been to all except 2. I missed North Carolina, and I missed Virginia.
Okay. So we're like 5 of them net buying and 5 of them were net selling, and then
it was about half and half. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was
half.
asking.
And usually what swings it is high-end sales, like if high-end slabs move or not. Some shows I'll have 1 or 2 go, and then some will have 20. You know, when you have 20 $2,000 to $3,000 cards go in one show, it's going to swing you up really high in the sales department.
Yep. How about you, Nick? How'd the sourcing go?
It was actually really good. I was pleasantly surprised how everything went. Because I was only there for Saturday. I flew home early Sunday morning for my sister's marathon, which she finished. So I was super proud of her. But sales or buying went good. Being there Saturday, I was worried about whether or not people were going to be willing to give deals. Because normally, like, Sundays are the best days to walk around and get good deals. But I was actually pleasantly surprised with how many people were willing to negotiate. And I ended up buying a ton of singles, which was exactly what I wanted. Mainly like XY to current modern stuff. I bought a decent bit of WotC and EX era off of Rainbow Jim. I know she watches these, so really good to meet you, Rainbow Jim. And appreciate you selling me everything you sold me. But she has some unbelievable stuff. A lot of really, really good stuff. But yeah, no, buying went really, really well. I was happy with everything I was able to get.
Yeah, and big shout out to Rainbow Jim. She was the facilitator for that deal on the Van Gogh Pikachu case. So I definitely need to, next time I have a convention that overlaps with Rainbow Jim, I definitely need to buy her lunch or something to show my appreciation. Because I kind of like worked with her to get the deal done, and then I had to fly home. So like I didn't really have any way to like show my thanks on that. Buy her a drink or buy her a dinner or something. But yeah,
it depends on how they grade though. You might not want to take her out.
I guess by the time I see her again, I might have some like preliminary results, no black labels, 80% PSA 9s, like the card halves in price.
Some then, PSA 6s in there.
Yeah. Maybe to go from like buying a dinner to like giving her a granola bar or something that's left in my backpack. We'll see. But oh man, every convention I go to, I like clear out my bag before I pack, and there's always like a couple granola bars or something stashed in there from the prior one that I always try to just have a couple snacks for the plane or whatever, just in case. But yeah, she is the older lady that Nick was buying out. She's from Netherlands, right? Netherlands or something like that.
I thought Denmark, somewhere over there.
Somewhere over there, yeah, somewhere over there. I'm not sure exactly either, but
one of those northern European countries.
Yeah. I did, as I have been doing lately, I did vend Charlotte this year, I think was the one. Yeah, Charlotte. But I did not vend. I brought some stuff to put on Ponga's table. sales were pretty reasonable for how little that I brought, but I was very much in the negative overall, having bought. And I split this case with Radar as well. So John and I are on this little venture together with 400 gray felt hats. We'll see where that goes, but I was definitely in the negative. Usually my conventions are strongly in the green. Usually I'm not doing that much sourcing there. Not even that I did so much, but having live streaming started up, which we will pivot into. I do see Walsh's question. Having live streaming starting up, I probably should have sourced more. I'm definitely at a point in my business where I'm going to have to start dialing up the sourcing a lot. And I think Nick and Sam will be fully familiar. And not that I'm unfamiliar with it, but like 2014 to 2020, hoarding, collecting, sourcing, whatever you want to call it. 2020 to 2024. I mean, it's not that I'm spending nothing. It's not that I've not been sourcing, but it's not been my number one. Whereas it's going to turn back into my like number one thing. I have Fanatics going. I have the live streamers going. I have things going to where a lot of the fulfillment's outsourced. So I need to step back up drastically the sourcing, but I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I did need to go to the bank midday, and I have funny stories. I'll save that all for Monday. I have funny stories about the bank and the bank rants that I've been on already, but there's many more to come. But James, Mr. Z&G Emporium, had the pleasure of seeing him briefly there. Who is buying all this crap? Thank you, James, for your question. We don't ask that question. We just sell, right? We print the label and we ship it. A dangerous question, Mr. James. But no, I mean, like, it is fascinating how let's talk before we go into full-on live streaming. Let's talk a little bit more. If you guys have anything else on conventions, we can go there. But the overall market right now, like what 151 is doing, 151 sealed, what 151 singles are doing, the raw singles, TCG player lines, just straight everything straight up. A lot of the alt arts, a lot of the PSA 10s. I mean, 151 Charizard that Mr. James himself sold and posted on Instagram. It went from 300 to 400 to 700 or whatever it is now. What are you guys' thoughts on what the market is doing? They're printing record numbers of cards, 12, 13 billion cards. And in spite of that, like $170 Twilight Masquerade, $120 Surging Sparks, like pre-orders. Like it's insanity. I can't believe it. What are you guys' thoughts on all that?
It's wild. And 151 is obviously a really, really good set, but we haven't had like an awesome Scarlet and Violet set yet. We've had some decent ones, but nothing fantastic outside of 151. Once we do get that like home run set in Scarlet and Violet, it's going to be absolute insanity. I can't wait to see it. But yeah, no, modern is definitely king right now, as it has been. WotC, as much as I like it, it's doing all right. It's coming up in pricing, but it is not doing nearly as well as modern stuff.
Yeah, the market's like endlessly liquid. Like when I started live streaming in 2021, I was really concerned. So I was like, it was so liquid and prices were so high. And all that really happened between now and then is prices came down on most things, not everything. But it's like if it's almost more liquid. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Adding to that, it is definitely more liquid because at the time in 2020, 2021, PSA was not returning enough cards. I mean, there was the pandemic shutdown where all cards ceased for some amount of time. And so back then it was like more artificial. Cards weren't even coming back. Cards are coming back 1 million pieces of plastic a month from PSA alone. CGC doing record numbers, PSA doing record numbers, Pokemon printing record numbers. Like at the time, I think they printed maybe 6 billion cards in 2020-ish, somewhere in there. I forget the exact number. They're printing double that. Grading is multiple times that. So like I can confidently say liquidity is way, way up. And even though in absolute terms, some of the prices are down on like what they were during the bubble boom, whatever, like brand new sets coming out. I remember selling my allocation of battle styles for $150 a box. The same thing's going on. Like I will not be surprised in a month or two to be selling my Surging Sparks for 150. I when I did it with Battle Styles and Vivid Voltage and sets like that, I thought that was not going to happen again. I quit my job to do this full time in a market knowing, as you said, like this was unsustainable in absurd liquidity, absurd prices. The prices are less absurd, but I think largely still absurd in a lot of ways. And the liquidity is even more absurd. So it's like, man, this is wild. And I do have to shout out quick, Java, thanks for the 10 gifted. Appreciate you. Very nice seeing you again in Chicago. But yeah, it's mind blowing what this market is doing. And constantly I have just underestimated what would happen. Like going back 10 years in the hobby now, the first 7 as like a collector boy, side hobbyist, flip, whatever you want to call it, side hustle. I've constantly underestimated Pokemon, and it's just been it's been on fire. It's insane. Where we'll be in 2, 3, 5, 10 years, I have no idea. I feel like it's got to go through a dark period again. I'm not talking like EX era dark, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Diamond and Pearl era dark, but it's gotta cool a little bit, right? Like we've had 6-month stretches of that. We've seen $70, $80 booster boxes shipped. We've seen, but like for like 6 months or a year, we've not had a 2, 3, 5 year lull period. I feel like it's inevitable on a long enough timeline, but I would have expected it to come by now. And Sam, as you were talking a little bit, I don't even know. Do you have? You must have English wholesale distribution, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
What
or if you want to mention who it's with, or I mean, you don't have to either.
Okay.
I figured you must, but and you don't have any brick and mortar part of your operation, right? All online, just like Nick and myself.
Yeah. I mean, we have like an office space, but we don't have a retail location.
Okay, and no organized play, no anything like that.
No.
Yeah, I never plan to do that unless an insane opportunity that would be like more of a passive thing, buying some established thing and have someone else run it. Do you ever desire to have that? Do you ever see that down the line for Master Set Games, a physical location, brick and mortar?
No.
No.
I love game stores, especially the game stores, that are like well ran, because I've been in a lot of them. I used to play competitively, so I would travel around and go to so many different stores, and some were ran very poorly, and I kind of wish they would go out of business. And then some of them were awesome, and I wish them the best. But yeah, it's just like you're tied down. It's expensive. A lot of your profits just go into your overhead, which is always going to be the case with a business. But I think limiting overhead is one of the keys to stay in business, especially like through a lull, like, when we have a really big down period or something like that. It just protects you.
Yeah. I definitely like the freedom of you do have to answer your customers still. You do have to ship relatively within some certain time frame, but brick and mortar, you've got to be open, regular. You got to be like so someone has to be physically there. But yeah. Surging Sparks, I'm really interested to see. Did your allocation get hit really hard, or?
Mine actually jumped up, which I was surprised by. No, because normally I've been doing what is it? Is it 150 or is it 148? Whatever an even case quantity is of 150 boxes. That's kind of normally what I've been doing. But now with Surging Spark, now that I'm in Chicago and I've got Walrus helping me, I'm going to get back into mass openings, because I really, really need like the chase cards to run in the live streams. So I think it's going to work out really well. But because of that, I wanted to start getting more product. So I ordered, it was like 220 boxes. And then I also got a ton of the sleeve boosters, ETBs, because I wasn't sure if I was going to get as many booster boxes. And I got cut on the sleeve boosters, which I was fine by. And I ended up getting just over 200 booster boxes. So I was happy about that.
Yeah, I don't do a ton of English, to be honest. So we usually just order like 5 to 10 cases in that range. When we get allocated, it's usually not it doesn't make that big of an impact because like worst case I can just buy it from another store.
Mhm.
But we were we were offered more for the Surging Sparks.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I think context really matters when it comes to pre-orders. Like you'll have people share their own personal anecdotes like, oh, I got allocated massively. I only got 50% of what I asked for. I've been getting I have 2 distributors. Through one of them, I've been getting like 108 boxes consistently for pretty much every set. I asked for like 150, I think. I asked for like 50% more because it just felt like something was gonna be there. And I got allocated down to like 1 case more than I normally get. So I could advertise that as I got allocated 30% and I could try to like turn that into something. It doesn't mean that much though to me because it's like I asked for significantly more than I had been asking. And some of these, unless you have the context, like it's hard to make much of it. Oh, I got allocated 90%. Well, if your normal order is 100 cases and you ordered 1,000 cases, it's like, okay, you got what you normally get. That context is very important. But that's interesting though. I would have guessed a lot more than that. 5 to 10 cases of each set for modern English.
It's because like I'm not sure what you maybe like your train of thought was, but like we don't really do rip and chips.
Okay.
So that's a big reason why. So a lot of the times the sealed that we purchase is just stored away. And then what I often do, since distro is often, maybe it's not the case right now since sets are actually like more bullish, like right off the drop, but I'll just buy them from other stores or eBay and I don't pay taxes. So like, you know, because I have my business avenue set up and I get it cheaper there, you know, like Safari Zone has really good deals all the time. And maybe not all the time, but they'll drop cases for like under distro, at least for me, or right at it. So if I need more, it's usually there. And I don't mind paying like $110 a box anyway. You know, if I really miss the boat and it goes up, it's like, well, I paid $10, $15 more, $20 more, but I'm planning on holding it. You know, I have no need to sell it. So yeah, the big thing, we don't do rip and chips. So
okay. And then like you're not having a distribution relationship. You don't have to worry about should I take those battle academies that I don't want, or should I take those battle decks that I don't want.
Exactly.
It
just take a little bit here or there.
Yeah, like I know many people that buy from Safari Zone or elsewhere similar, Hills Wholesale Gaming, and it's like, man, I'm committing months in advance. They're not taking the money months in advance at least, but I'm committing months in advance, and I'm putting up like 100 one of mine. I think I have 250-ish coming. 250-ish coming, 250 boxes coming, about 40 cases coming for Surging Sparks. And I think one distributor is about 160-ish, 150, 160-ish. Like that's a lot of thing to commit to. And then I'm paying 90 a box or whatever it is. And I see people buying cases for $540 shipped through non-wholesale, right?
Yep.
Like paying, not even paying the same, paying $1 or $2 a box less, which is wild.
Yeah, I think at one point, like Scarlet Violet base, I was buying on eBay for like 78 a box, maybe, or 80 bucks from like Flipside. Yeah. And I was just like, I guess I'll buy it at this price. Like, I'll take more. It just felt like a no-brainer.
Well, and across the past few years, like you had the short window, but Chilling Reign was $79.99 shipped for some amount of time. Evolving Skies was $90 shipped or whatever on eBay for some amount of time. And it's wild, the swings that we go through. It's like people buy when it goes up, people sell when it goes down. It's just fascinating, but it's like reliving the same dream over and over. It just keeps happening. On the rip and ships front, because that's something like just getting into live streaming. That's something, and I will take Walrus's question soon. Thanks for waiting, Walrus. It's something that I desire, I guess, to be honest, some of it's out of just assuming that there's demand for that. Also, a part of it's out of like laziness, just to be frank. Like it's so attractive to just be able to, like, I can endlessly source English modern sealed at 80%. Just like I can source $1 million of that in my sleep at any given time. Are you not in it because it's not there, or are you not in it because slabs and singles are like higher margin or more there for you? Like, what's the reason behind that?
Yeah, I think there's two reasons. One, I think that rip and chips are boring. Not saying it's not fun to rip products, and like I'm not definitely not trying to bash anyone who likes ripping stuff. I've definitely bought into breaks and stuff. Like it's fine. I just think they're like everybody kind of does them, so they're just kind of like. I feel like when if you like that stuff, you find like a streamer or a couple of streamers you like, and you just hang out with them, and that makes sense. I personally don't like them that much, so I went the other route, which is more like singles and slabs. And then I also think the margin's better with singles and slabs. And I have more fun doing it too. So I guess there's a third reason.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of it.
And
yeah,
Nick,
I agree with you. If I like doing both, but if I had to pick one, doing like the auctions or pack ripping, I would definitely pick the auctions. Auctions are a lot more fun. I like how fast paced they are. Whereas the pack ripping, you're just usually like for me, I'll do half my stream auctions and then half the stream pack ripping. And the auctions fly by, but then after the auctions, I lose about half my viewership. And just rip packs for people. And it's still fun, but I like how fast paced the auctions are too.
you do really well with it, Nick. And part of like I'm not really a consumer of live streams. I did do a bunch of studying. I did watch more of it like in the months leading up to when I launched it. But seeing your success, Nick, it's like the main attractiveness I like about it is like obviously if you're buying vintage collections, if you're just subject to the $1 auction and how it turns out. Whereas buying the sealed, I know my buy price, I know my sell price. It's just a matter of how many I can sell. Like it's so easy to know I'm going to pay streamer X per pack. And if they rip 200 packs, well, they make 200 times X, right? And so it's attractive from that perspective that it's just like known margins. You're either making them or you're not making them. Whereas the auctions are like, you're definitely getting the sale, but it's just more complex to like calculate the margins and things like that. And Nick, you don't really have it yet. Maybe you'll have it someday where you're the one streaming it, right? So you get a more honed in look and feel on what actually is happening, and you don't have to worry about compensation side.
Yeah.
Sam, you do streaming yourself, and then you also pay other people to stream. So you likely have a good feel for how long you've been doing it, roughly what you're going to get on stuff. But but that would have only came over time, right? And as it grows, it gets better. When it starts, it's a little bit potentially darker before those margins build themselves up. But yeah, Walrus did have a really good question that I've been talking about for 20 minutes. So Sam, what trends in the market did Sam see that made him go so deep into live streaming so early on? So put us in your shoes, put us in your head, and let us know a little bit about like the background. What did you used to do before all that?
Yeah. So so a quick background. I grew up in the 90s. So I was handed Pokemon Yellow version and Red version were my first two games. So I loved it. I loved it as a kid. I got my first card on the bus. I was like 4 years old. It was a base set Weedle with the corner ripped off. Some kid gave it to me, and I was like so happy. And then that started it all. So a Weedle started everything.
Nice.
But then I played the games throughout grade school. But I didn't collect the cards for a while. I think I collected up through Neo, and then I stopped. But I played the games throughout grade school. My cousins collected the cards still, so we would go to card stores with them. And I wasn't as into it then, but we were ripping Aquapolis and Skyridge packs. He actually still has all the foil wrappers. He kept them all in a binder, which is really cool. So we were ripping Skyridge back when it was like $3 or $4. The best thing we ever hit was a crystal Crobat, but we thought it was just a stupid Crobat at the time. We had no clue what crystals were. But anyway, then high school, I kind of got back into it. I was at Walmart, and Next Destinies had just dropped in black and white. And I like Mewtwo, and I had a Mewtwo pack. And I was like, you know what? I'll buy a pack and see what happens. Relive my childhood a little bit. And then that started this avalanche of just, everything. I was building decks and playing the video games again and just getting really back into it. It's probably a bad idea because I needed to like get ready for college because I was a junior in high school. But yeah, and then I started flipping the cards too to pay for my decks because competitive decks get kind of expensive, especially when you're like a poor high school student. So I was like selling on Facebook, Reddit, and PokeGym was a big one I sold on and traded. And then just kind of did that through college as well, paying for like beer money, or like sometimes I'd be short rent one month and I would just sell a couple like gold stars to like fund my rent. And then I got into sales actually after I graduated. I graduated from Penn State, and then got into sales, managed a sales team of about 100 people. Got laid off during COVID, and then I was like, you know what? I'm already doing Pokemon for like 10 years. So let's just see what we can do. And then I went to my first Collecticon, and it kind of like just kept steamrolling from there. I started live streaming in 2021 though, on Whatnot, and I'm still there today. I was actually approached by a Whatnot rep. He kind of gave me the sales pitch that I had a feeling he was going to give me, because I saw him giving it to other people, and I told him no to his face, which was really funny. So I'm straight up like, I don't have time to live stream. Like, I'm already so busy with eBay. And he followed up with me a week or two later, and I hopped into that call, and then that kind of changed everything. But going with like Walrus's question, like more specifically, like the market was, I mean, if you were around during 2021 buying and selling, like it was still hot. Like it was really hot in the first half of 2021, at least. And just everything, like I would buy something and then a week or two would be up like 20, 30, 50%, depending on what it was. And so everything was selling, and cheap bulk slabs were selling for $30. And it's just like, I feel like everything I did was right. It's just like, how can I maximize my returns? And I gave Whatnot a shot. And after that first show, I knew I like had to keep doing it, because I was like, I just sold like $2,000 in cards in like 2 hours. Like this is ridiculous, So I was just like kind of feeling it out and trying things. I'd say like definitely don't be afraid to just like try stuff and see what sticks for you.
And I doing some numbers in my head as you were talking there. So you're about 29-ish based off the 29 or 30. Yeah, I figured.
Yep.
When you quit your like real job a few years ago, what was the general like family members, friends, any thoughts, any commentary, anything around any of that?
Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it. I might have missed it in that speed run of a story, but I got laid off during COVID. So unfortunately, our company went under. Now I really liked that job because I was able to do Pokemon on the side. It was a managerial position. Had a lot of coaching and different like sales tactics we'd go over with my team. But so I liked it, and it would be like 4 hours during the day basically, and the rest I would just do Pokemon, right, or other stuff. And yeah, when I lost my job, I was pretty concerned. I remember talking to my wife, and I was like, "Yeah, so I just got laid off," and she's like, "Oh, we're gonna be okay." Like she was trying to like play it off and stuff, and I was like, I didn't really wasn't sure what I was gonna do, so I actually took like 2 or 3 months off. I was still doing Pokemon, and then I decided to like kind of dive in because this was in 2020. I think I got laid off in July. So the market was still going like hot. Like it was like doubling
on the way
up.
Like
doubling every month. Like it was insane. And to be honest, most of my family still don't really believe what I do.
Yeah.
Especially like my closer family members, I've told them some of the numbers, and they're just like, are you selling drugs? Like, I'm just like, no, like it's all legit. Buy the books. It's cards. It's cardboard. My wife's fully supportive of it. She's actually a nerd, big nerd too. She's actually she's at home playing her Switch. She's off today. She's trying to complete her decks in Scarlet Violet, because there's like a special event if you complete your decks. So close family and friends for the most part supportive. Like they're not like, oh, you need to like use your degree, which was economics, by the way. So it's not like I'm not using it, but yeah,
not giving you a bunch of newspapers with job listings circled, handing them over.
No, luckily not. But I will say that they definitely like still, and I don't really care. I'm not super close with a lot of my family, but they definitely like don't take my business very seriously, which is fine. I kind of like laying low and people not knowing what I'm doing in terms of like the scale of it, to be honest. So yeah, that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, I still have the occasional interaction with like a friend I haven't seen in a while, or a family member. I'm actually going to a wedding this weekend with a bunch of like old college friends, which some of them I haven't seen since college, so it'll be interesting. I'm sure it'll come up what we're all doing and all that. But my mother-in-law doesn't even fully know. My wife was just talking to me about some conversation she had with my mother-in-law. I think she thinks I'm like only a YouTuber. Like I do have a YouTube. I make like $100 a month between my channel and PokeFlipz. It would be dark times if that was all I had. That's very much just like that's just a little bit of extra on top. But yeah,
That's an easier job description to explain though.
Yeah,
Like,
for
yeah,
sure.
I'm on YouTube. I make videos.
Well, and then oh well, what's your YouTube? And they go and they look at 1,000 views. Oh man, things must be dark for Dan's family. Like
ramen noodles.
Yeah. Oh man, we better put a little bit of extra money in his kids' birthday cards.
Yeah.
Oh man, but yeah, that's funny. Did you like between 2012, I think Next Destinies you mentioned you got in. Like I was collector first. I sold supplemental. Like I would buy big lots, sell off what I didn't want, keep what I did want. Did you have like going into 2020? Did you just have a horde of a backlog that you kind of like 10, 20x'd on, or were you fairly thin on inventory? Yeah.
Yeah, I got lucky. It wasn't like millions of dollars lucky. If I was, I mean, granted, nobody knew. You know, if we were all doing it before the boom, and nobody knew it would go to the scale it did, especially as fast as it did. I was playing. So competitive play was the big thing that got me into it, which I think is is an opposite story of what most people are. So I got really into it competitively. Next Destinies like broke the format when it came to competitive cards. And it was really expensive. The Mewtwo EX in that set was around $70 to $80, just the regular EX when it was competitive, and you needed 4 per deck. So as a poor college or high school student, you know, I was like, how am I going to scrounge up, you know, $300+ just for 4 cards in my deck? So I really quickly learned how to buy and sell at events. Like, okay, I can buy these trainer lots for like 3 off players and sell them for like 7 or 8 to the store because, you know, like they didn't know, or like whatever it was. And it was just like a hustle for sure. And I was just trying to build decks and fund, you know, travel. You know, I'd have to pay for gas. Not that it was that expensive back then, but it was for me. But then I also would get really bored at events. I don't know if you guys have ever been to a competitive event. It could literally last like all day, like 8 a.m. to like one event I went to, it went so late at the card store that the card store stayed open. They had to close because it was midnight. And there was a Wendy's across the street that was open. And this has only happened one time. The tournament organizers said, okay, before the next round starts, because we were in the semifinals, everyone's going to grab their stuff and we're going to go to Wendy's and play in Wendy's. And we finished the tournament in a Wendy's.
That's awesome.
Yeah, very funny. But anyway, yeah, so they would go very long, and sometimes you finish a round in like 10 minutes. You know, or something.
Did you win that one?
No, I didn't. I think I got 4th. So
that
was top 4. Yeah,
that still deserves a Frosty.
I'm pretty sure. No, it was really funny because the TL was like, when we talked to the Wendy's manager on staff, they're really cool with this because it was like a small crowd of people. There's probably 20 of us, you know, which is still enough where it could be a disruption. She's like, everyone has to go buy Wendy's before we leave to support them. So we did. Yeah. Like, yeah, it was really fun. Awesome. But anyway, they were long events, so I would just I started collecting. You know, I would you know, buy a lot of cards and be like, oh, that's a cool full art, I'll keep that. And I would like have a front of my binder would be the trade binder or for sale, and the back half of the binder would be the collection. And what I happened to just like was shiny Pokemon. So gold stars, shinings. Wasn't ever really as big into crystals back then. I like them a lot more now. But I was working on a full set of all of them. As well as a full ultra rare set. So every ultra and secret rare throughout Pokemon history I was working on. Back then it was cheap. You know, Mudkip Gold Stars were maybe like $30 to $50 depending on condition. I think Espeon was like 100 maybe. But that was a lot of money back then. You know, that could be me eating out for 3 weeks with friends. You know, so it was a little bit of both, but I would say competitive play was the main driver.
Nice. And when people hear the old prices, they long for those old prices. They don't take into account the liquidity that went along with it, though, because
exactly.
Like I was selling $30 PSA 10 Jungle Pikachus in 2016, and I was selling $900 ones in 2021. I was selling 50 times the rate in 2021 than I was. Like those $30 Eevees and Pikachus, they sold so slow back then. They were auctioning for less than that, and they were buying now selling a few times a year. Like it was wild.
The community was so small then compared to now too. Less people. I won't say less people collect. I guess more people still collected, but like in the competitive scene, a lot of people didn't collect. So it was really interesting interacting with all those people. But then I would get more of the collector people on like PokeGym and stuff. It was interesting, and not a lot of people graded back then either, myself included. But going along with your question too, Dan. So like I was working on these sets, and I pretty much had them all done, and I had dupes of a lot of stuff, and I slowed it down a little during college so that I could like focus on graduating. And when I got laid off and saw a lot of the prices, and I was very picky about my binder collections too. I would go near mint to mint, like exclusively. I had some dinged up cards that were my extras, but for my personal collection, it was like near mint to mint only. I ended up grading a lot of 8, 9s, and 10s for gold stars.
Nice.
And that was the right time to do that. For a lot of them, some of them kept going up, which is a little frustrating, but you know, so I got a nice little nest egg. I sold almost everything. It took a while to do that, but liquidity was so high. Sold things for prices I never thought they would ever achieve, and then funded my business from there.
Did you set aside anything in particular that like this is PC, this is never going anywhere, or is it pretty much all inventory all gone?
Most of it's gone. I kept a couple of my like victory medals that I won at events, and then also some of my play mats. So I had some like top 4, top 16 play mats from like nationals and stuff like that. So I kept those. For the most part, I did unfortunately sell a lot of it, but I don't really regret it, as cool as it would be to just even see some snapshots of what I had. I had a few pictures, but that nest egg that it gave me, it wasn't anything insane, but it was enough that like I could start rolling that money into flowing capital that gave me a strong ROI. So
yeah, that's huge. Yeah, Nick and myself greatly benefited from that too. Nick's told his story of getting off the ship when Evolutions was doing what it was doing many times, and it doesn't get old. I've done bad at weaving some of I try to weave the questions when we're on the topics. Fat Belly Collects. I think normally they announce Collecticon schedules in like November, right? Usually a few weeks after the last one.
Yeah, I bet it'll be November, December, somewhere around there.
One thing I like about Pokemon Worlds, and last year, because of like the spoilers, because of the leaks, they announced 2 years at once. But I like how Pokemon World makes it a point at the closing ceremonies. Like I remember at DC, the closing ceremonies, they announced the next one was going to be in London. And it's like, oh crap, I'm probably not going to make that one. And then the pandemic took 2 years away from us. And then I still haven't made it back to one. But I wish Collecticon would do that. I don't know if logistically they have it all scheduled, can't make it make sense. But if at like closing ceremonies, maybe Jason Page, maybe someone else up on stage telling us like, hey, join us next year, these dates, these times, that would be cool.
That would be.
Yeah, it's really frustrating not having the schedule, because like I have other events that like, and like weddings and stuff, and I'm trying to plan these already, and it's also cheaper a lot of times to book in advance. And it's like we can't do that with how late they announce it.
Yeah, and then like Card Party, obviously. Card Party's already announced both their dates, locations, times. Worlds is announced for the next 2 Worlds, and hopefully we get them all within a month. Historically, I think we've gotten them like November, December time frame, because usually the first one for a few years there, Orlando would kick it off in like late February.
I hope they bring Orlando back for the February one. That was so nice being from New England.
I don't think I'll do Orlando again if it's May through August. I'm not. Me and Heat don't get along too well. But
it was
I was 95 degrees in Charlotte at full sun. I was playing basketball at Rusty's though too. So I'll be fine if they do. But like Sam said, like it's graduations and birthdays and weddings and that stuff. Usually you get much further advance notice on. But yeah, we'll see. I'm excited for when that schedule comes out. I've heard rumblings too. There might be like 15 this time. There might be even more. That'll be interesting to see how they pack those all in.
Yeah, it's annoying because like there's other card shows that I want to go to that are smaller, but like I think worth going. And it's like, do I commit to vending at these? Because like if I do, and then there's a conflict with a big Collecticon, I would probably rather do the Collecticon. You know, so it's like they're like it forces our hand. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what's up with that. It'd be even nice if they could just give us maybe the first couple, like the dates.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they don't
get
have
us
the end
through-
of the year booked or something, even though I'm assuming they have to book these convention centers like a year out, right? Like I would assume so.
You'd imagine.
I
yeah.
would imagine they already
Yeah.
know where they're going and what dates they're going.
Yeah, the only thing that like I'd imagine maybe the specific hall might be in flux, but
Yeah.
you don't need that, right? You need the city
Yeah.
and you need or like the partnered hotel. Sometimes those come in fairly late, but if you could get this convention center this date, that would be really cool.
Yeah, it'd be huge.
But as of now, we don't have them yet for 2025. And retro's always in here trying to find ways to peddle some of his wares. Do you do much Japanese sealed, or
We
not?
primarily do Japanese everything, sealed included.
So all your connects, you probably got direct connects, you probably got plugs, but retro is my connect primarily. I do a little bit of my own sourcing too, but retro is out there. He would be upset with me if I didn't throw this on screen and plug
That's
his name.
fine. If he can beat the prices for my contacts, I'll more than happy to buy. So
You guys
it's
might
probably
have
very
to
similar
talk.
though. It's probably very similar.
Yeah, he has some people on the ground in Japan, but that's like a limited amount of like very good relationship, very like guaranteed product. But you know, like when the hype things happen as they do in the US, when they happen in Japan, sometimes pre-orders, like verbal agreements, sometimes those things fall through when a price jumps 50% overnight. He has a certain amount of product that will not happen with. And then as with anything else, the well dries up on the better sources. And then you go on down the line with the riskier ones that may or may not be as, but we got Pokey in here too. Retro's 20 minutes behind. So he's still waiting for me to put it up on screen, but I have a contractual obligation. Not really, but I need to throw Retro's name on screen.
It's good to shout out the homies.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
You got to. Okay, so here's another good one from Mr. Walrus. Appreciate you, Mr. Walrus. At what point in your business did you decide getting streamers was the best course of action? Specifically not for me, specifically for Sam and whatnot only. And I'll go further. I'll add to his question. I won't answer myself because I've been shilling myself too much lately. But how many do you have? Like a rough amount? Like what's the size of the operation? What's been the journey from one man in 2021 to whatever it is now?
Yep. So currently, right now, we have myself included. There's 14 of us as a team, but three streamers below me. So four streamers total, and then 10 on our shipping team. So 14 total, four streamers. So I started solo on Whatnot and just the business in general. The more you do this, I'm sure a lot of you guys have already felt this. Is like you eventually hit a point where you literally physically do not have the time to get everything done in the day. And it feels like you could just work all day and night and you'd still never catch up. And I think once you hit that point, it's time to maybe think about if you want to scale or not. For me, it was like, all right, I'd come in and I would answer eBay messages. I would ship out eBay packages. I do TCG Player as well. So I would do that. The same thing for eBay, but for TCG. And then I would have to respond to Whatnot DMs because there's people asking where their packages are. They had a question or they need something switched. And then I would have to source. And I'd be sourcing for a few hours. And then I would live stream. And then after the live stream, I would respond to all my messages again and ship out any orders that came through in the afternoon. And then I would have to ship my Whatnot stream for that day. And right there, I mean, that's 12 hours. That's literally a 12-hour day right there. So I did it for alone about 6 months, which was way too long. Once I started streaming, way too long. 6 months from streaming, by the way. I was doing it longer before that by myself, but streaming is what took me over the edge, I guess. I think that's an important thing to put in there. That the volume that you can do live streaming, especially with auctions, is so immense that it's not sky's the limit, but the limit is pretty dang high. So after about 6 months, I hired my good friend, Pietro. If you ever tune the channel, he's probably on there slinging slabs. He's at shows with me a lot too. He's very knowledgeable about the market. He's a collector as well. And then he's a really good live streamer, very charismatic. So he started as a shipper. so that I could live stream and source more. So he took, he saved me, 4 to 6 hours every day shipping. And that might sound like a lot of time shipping, but for anyone who actually does live streaming, when you're pushing like 400 to 500 like items per stream and you have 3 streams a day, it gets up there real fast.
Yeah.
So he knocked out shipping for me and it was beautiful, but then he started burning out and he's like, when can I live stream? When can I live stream? I'm like, you know what? Let's try it. And then he killed it like on his first live stream. And then we transitioned him to that. And then we got shippers and it just kept growing and growing. So like, it's all these moving parts. Like you got another streamer. Well, you need 2 more shippers, to get 2 more shippers, we need another streamer. And it's just like, it's all these pieces moving in tandem. And if one goes down, they all go down. So it's like clockwork here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I answered the question or not. I think I might've.
No, you did. You did.
What is your favorite part of the business? Because like for me, I don't think it'll ever happen, but I would love to just be the face. Just do the actual streaming, not have to source, not have to ship, answer questions, all that stuff. We'll see what happens, but I don't think I'm at the point now where I can ever have someone else stream for me. Yeah. But if I can get someone else to do all the other work, it would be so nice.
My priorities have definitely transitioned. At first, I was like you, Nick, where I just wish that I could like have things sourced for me and have all this stuff taken care of. And I would just live stream and I liked it. And then it kind of shifted. I was like, I kind of want to be a little more, not passive, but in the back end. Because like when I started, it was mainly just on eBay and TCG Player, which is very like not hands off, but you don't have to be on a camera. Nobody knows your face, anything like that. And I like that. I say sourcing, and I think Dan's in a similar boat where sourcing is my favorite thing. Buying stuff is just fun. Mm-hmm. But closing that like really big deal, whether it be at a Collecticon or on Instagram or wherever, is very satisfying for me as well. Especially when it's like, okay, I just spent, $40K and I'm going to come out with like 65. Like that's like my favorite thing. Making money, I guess. I hope I don't sound too greedy, but like making money is like, it's a huge motivator for me and I'm very business oriented. So making money is number one. And it's fun. Yeah, you can do it and be passionate towards it as well. I think a lot of people don't see that part of me as like the passion and my background in the hobby.
That's a good pivot into Ryan Goff's question. And maybe you already answered it completely, but maybe you have more to add. What has been your favorite thing besides the money? Besides the money. So about doing this full time to the extent you are now versus your days of bulk on our Pokemon TCG trades.
Oh yeah. So I would say like the biggest thing is favorite thing, not money. Okay. All right. I was getting too deep into the money. It's easy to do. Like it's a rabbit hole, but I would say it's going to sound cliche and I feel like it always does, but it's like the people and the connections I've made, specifically going to Collecticon events and, when people know me from Whatnot or, from Discord and stuff. And like you actually like some of my best friends now are I met through the hobby. And it's cool. Like we go out and eat every Collecticon, we see each other on like a monthly basis now, a lot of us. And, it's just like, now they're like, it's like how I treat my college buddies where we just like meet up every couple months and we hang out. And it's just like, it's just fun. I don't know. I guess to the people for sure.
I like it. Very, very wholesome answer after all that dirty money talk.
Dirty money talk.
But yeah, so that's interesting to me. I'm surprised by 4 streamers, 10 shippers, but you do a lot of like sudden death. You do a lot of, I've seen you throw up on Instagram sometimes like 10-second sudden deaths. You're going to do 150 items in like half an hour or something.
Yep.
That's where it makes more sense. And
yeah,
are any people like full-time salaried, or are a lot of them like part-timers that have something else front and center that they do?
Yeah, so it's funny. All of our streamers are essentially full-time. They're not salaried though. They're paid by the hour plus commission. The commission is hefty though. We pay very well. We pay multitudes of what I used to make at my last job. And I was in a managerial position and my streamers are making way more than that. So I'm confident they get paid well and they like it. Our shipping team, we have 2 people that are almost full-time. They're not technically full-time. And then everyone else is just part-time. So I'm lucky that I live right next to one of the largest universities, Penn State. So So we have like 45,000 students there. There's a lot of bright, bright students that are just looking for good part-time work. We pay pretty well. It's like 18 an hour for shippers starting. I think it's pretty reasonable. A lot of them work like 15, 20 hours a week and they just have fun. It's chill office job. You just pack orders. It's a little monotonous, but yeah, so it's kind of a mix, the way we do pay and everything.
Mm-hmm. I remember when you made a post on Instagram one time, there being a fair amount of like skepticism in a couple of Discords that I was in.
Yeah.
I think if I remember, I think it was like 50. How did you post it? I think 100K plus.
It was 100K plus.
It was something like that.
I think,
yeah.
I think you wrote like hiring a streamer 100K plus. Are you actively hiring right now? And I guess as much or as little as you want to share, like what goes into that. If anyone out here listening, 67 live listeners, maybe some are in or around Pennsylvania. Maybe some of them would love to relocate to there. Kind of do like a pitch for yourself on what you're looking for in a hire and what that would entail.
Yeah, I'm hiring for a couple different positions right now. Big one being another streamer. We need at least one more right now to fill out our first channel, and then we're going to start a second channel on Whatnot, so we can have 2 channels going at once. Pay can and will be 100K plus if you're a good streamer. We can train you to be a good streamer, but there's also like an inherent type of person I think you need to be to do a good job at it. It is largely commission based, but like our top streamer, he's making pretty far into the 6 figures, and then our second streamer, she's making reasonably deep into the 6 figures. And it might sound ridiculous to a lot of people, but our margins are really strong and I pay well for good work and it scales up, right? So if they make me more money, they should get paid more as well. Now, if you want to just be a part-time streamer, maybe make 50K, 60, 70K. That's very possible as well. 20 hours a week, maybe 30 tops, with prep time and stuff. So it's definitely not impossible. If that does sound impossible, you might be new to the streaming world, or like the numbers, if you just hop on a big live stream like Nick's or anyone on Whatnot, like bigger channels, like if you do the math in your head on what they're selling, it adds up really quick. Some pretty substantial numbers. And then we're also hiring just shipping team, and like I could really use a new like personal assistant if anybody wants to move to Pennsylvania. We're 2 hours east of Pittsburgh. Definitely reach out on Instagram if you are looking for something. And the other one would be I'm looking for someone who's bilingual, English and Japanese, to help me with some ground stuff over in Japan. So yeah, so that's basically it.
There we go. Java is updating his resume as we speak. Java's a good dude too. I don't know if you ever met Tyler, but yeah.
I feel like I have at a show. Does he go to shows?
Yeah, he was just at Chicago. Yeah.
Okay.
Chef's packing his bags.
I will warn everybody, not to scare anybody. I'm incredibly picky. Just a heads up. So
I've always been one,
not to deter you, but I'm super picky.
Like my former job, we had a bad habit of just paying very little, and not even that they expected a lot, but like paying little and then being annoyed and perplexed why we were getting little and why there was a revolving door. I'm very much on the side of like pay people really well, but demand a lot. That's always been my, like, I don't think I'll be a major hirer in the future. I'm trying to do people like off site, and that gets into the whole like needed additional trust levels and stuff when I'm sending my product to them. But yeah, I very much skew towards the size of like, let me pay really good people really well and not have a revolving door. The process of hiring, firing, like I don't want to interact with that too much. So
yeah,
here we go. Grimer wants to know where in PA approximately.
Yeah, I can tell you it's State College, Pennsylvania. It's our office is 2 miles from the Penn State main campus.
Nice.
So we're literally right in the center of the state. It's called Center County.
There you go. You're probably going to have some resumes hitting your inbox.
That'd be great.
I did link your Instagram. So Instagram DM, I linked your Whatnot as well.
Instagram
probably have an email listed somewhere. Yeah. So throw those
with everything.
There you go. Go find the link tree. Go email, Instagram, DM, whatever you want to do. Dan, who are these good people you're paying well? Ponga is one of my 2 launch streamers right now, and he's memeing. He's compensated quite fairly, I think, for what is a launch entry level streaming position, with opportunities to hopefully do a lot more. But we'll see where it goes. The way that I did it, and I'm not going to give numbers that aren't wholly my own, but PK and Ponga know what they've gotten. I gave them like X amount of hours. I will just, like, no matter how dark it is, if I'm getting 40% across the board on everything, because it was a new platform, new venture for me, like, I'm going to pay you this amount. It's not 3 digits per hour, but it's not far off. 3 digits per hour, like per stream hour. So they've got to do the shipping themselves. Like that's where with you, a streamer's a streamer, a shipper's a shipper. I kind of have people wearing both hats, right? But I think I gave them a fair, good opportunity, and hopefully it turns into something great, but it also might not too, and we'll see where it goes though.
And I will say too, really quick with those numbers, like, I'm really not trying to like blow up anybody here negatively or positively. Like, when we first started, the pay was not that strong, but because we scaled and our streamers are so good at what they do, that we were able to scale up the pay as well. You know, it started much lower, and it was definitely a much riskier venture for everybody. It's still risky in a sense that, like, who knows if this will be here in like 5 years, but for now we're going to ride it. And we're all reaping some benefits, and you know, our audience has fun too. So I think everybody wins.
Jake's annoyed I didn't answer his question immediately. Question for Dan: what are your thoughts on firing your current team and hiring a bunch of recent college grad baddies instead?
That's the play right there.
I don't anticipate I'll be making that play myself, but it sounds like, Master Set Games has a fresh crop of those coming out every year out of state college, right? Oh man, everyone's gonna be getting in trouble with this one. Thanks, Jake.
I'll say the worst part about college students is one, they leave for any and all holidays, including the summer for the most part, and then the other one, like, we had one of our best shippers. She was a senior when I started. So we only had her for like 6 months, and I had to just see her leave, like, and she would have stayed. Like, it's just like, you only have them for 4 years really at most too. So that's the downside of college kids.
On a long timeline, though, it'll be interesting to see how many people like just do the 4-year thing working with you and then have an intent originally to go into whatever field they're studying for. And then they're like, hey, this stuff is going well. Like, maybe they'll give 5 years a chance, 10 years a chance on the front end, sticking with that. Like,
one of our streamers sure there already did that.
Yeah, there will probably be some.
And he's just streaming now. So.
Awesome. And he probably has some interesting stories on like familial pushback. Like, I'm sure that's because I was a decade in the workforce, and like I definitely had some amount of that for sure. But the people closer to me got more transparency, more information, and they were not worried for me, not worried about me. They knew, but I still have some amount of like. I'm very like straightforward and everything. My parents, open, honest, all that stuff. My dad has had some interesting conversations at the bar where people are like, "Oh man, your son used to be an engineer and now he just plays with Pokemon cards." Like, it's just funny, like the way that some people will be like, "My son's still an engineer," or "My son's this," and it's interesting thing that they have to deal with. Like, I don't see that, I don't feel that, I don't give a crap about that. But I'm like, tell them whatever you want to, I don't care. Oh man. We got a lot of questions pouring in, and I've been bad at starring them, but I will try to catch up. So
one other thing, when you said you were going to start a second Whatnot channel, do you think you'll always stay on just Whatnot? Do you see yourself expanding into another platform?
Yeah, I think we'll always stay on it as long as sales stay strong, like in the community on there. Even though I use the C word, it stays strong, which it has been. They've been really like pumping some crazy numbers as far as viewership and viewer to buyer ratio. But yeah, no, I'm very curious. I've been in the talks with TikTok a lot. If they had auctions, we probably would have already been on it. Because like our bread and butter is auctions, and I like the liquidity that they give. So yeah, I'm 100% open to other platforms. It's more like Whatnot will be like home base, right? And then we'll branch out. And if those branches do really well, we'll have like a channel there going at all times. Like ideally, would be so definitely open to other things. Whatnot's just like their app just works so well for the most
Yes.
part. And we just have such a core audience on there with how long we've been on there too. And they just like keep buying stuff. So
What's
it's
your
like
follower
don't bite the
count?
hand that feeds you.
Yeah. What's your follower count on Whatnot now?
It's like 52 or 53,000, I think.
Nice.
It's sizable. There's a lot of accounts that are bigger, but we have a very high like buyer ratio.
I'd
Like a lot of
imagine
our
that's
viewers actually buy
still
stuff.
that's well into the upper 10 percentile, I would imagine.
Yeah, followers isn't as important on Whatnot as it used to be. It's still important for sure because they don't do like push notifications like the same way they used to. But we are one of the top accounts on the platform.
What are your thoughts? Mr. Walrus said, "P.S. I will be streaming on Best Buy Live." I think like Walmart actually has a collectibles platform that they've been talking about that might be rolling out at some point. When we were in Chicago, actually hanging out at the Airbnb, people were talking about it, and somebody found a stream. They found like an old replay of a stream. The guy was like doing a recipe, like he was cooking something, and you could buy his cast iron skillet, and you could buy the blender, you could buy like, I mean. That got me thinking. Like I'm about to go smoke some brisket and then sell you the thermometer, sell you the pellets, sell you the smoker. Like
QVC, very similar.
Exactly.
What are your thoughts on like? Obviously, we have Whatnot far and away like the highest, and then I think eBay, Fanatics. I think Drip is like quite a ways below either of those. But there's already like several names out there. What are your thoughts on TikTok eventually adding auctions? Walmart coming in and maybe having auctions and this and that.
Walmart like scares me because I feel like they don't know what they're doing at all in that space. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they hired some specialists, but I doubt it. But who knows? TikTok, I think, is very promising. From what I've seen on it, there are a lot of buyers that don't know what they're doing, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not saying you should try to rip people off, but like Whatnot, I feel like it used to be that way, and now I feel like there's a lot more collectors on the app. Believe it or not. I don't know. I feel like if TikTok added auctions, I would be there in a heartbeat. But I mean, TikTok's a huge, I don't know if you guys know, like, I don't know if you've looked into it, Dan, too, like streaming on there. It's huge. Like there are tons of Pokemon streamers. I don't know. I wish I knew how many, and like I know their viewership is insane. I don't know how many people actually buy off them, but, I feel like TikTok just having that social media platform already, like it's got to be one of the largest social media platforms on the planet, and then being able to sell Pokemon cards on that sounds intriguing to me. And I have friends that do very well on there. Walmart maybe not so much though.
I don't know. I can't see
it's buy it now only. There's no auctions, but people do like rip and ships on there. Like they'll just okay. I to be honest, I never really looked too in depth at TikTok.
So from what I've seen, it's mainly 3 formats: rip and ship, mystery bags, and then just like claim sales. So like let's say you go to a Collecticon, you pick up a lot of really nice like higher end niche singles. You buy at X percent and then you sell at 100% or 95% to your audience. So it's kind of like TCD Player or eBay on like steroids because you can live stream it and show the card, and then people can be like, I'll take that one. I'll take that one. Those are the 3 main formats I've seen. Maybe there's more that I don't know about, but that's what my friends generally do.
And it'll be interesting too. Like if this, I mean, clearly it's a big honeypot to the level that it's massive for Whatnot and Fanatics and this, they're all getting into it. Imagine the minute that Amazon decides or Google itself decides, like YouTube exists. Some people do streams, Shopify integrated through their, but like if YouTube just adds some native thing where you go live on YouTube vertical and you have the Whatnot build out, you have the build out for all that within YouTube itself. Like, and the way that would come would likely not be, and this is all just somebody speculating. This is not an expert opinion. This is not any insider info or anything, but I would think that Google or Amazon or whatever would just buy. They would buy what they liked in the market, and then they would absorb that into their own platform. I don't think they'd build that from the ground up, though they'd have the resources to if they wanted to.
Mhm.
But yeah, like if those actual titans in like not just the industry, titans in the world ever see like, oh, big things are happening with this, like let's buy whatnot and then integrate that into YouTube or whatever. Like what the future of this could be is just astronomical. And I've not like validated any of this, but supposedly it's a massive thing over in like China. Like there's just tons of people around the clock streaming all these different things, selling these things live, and very interesting like what our future could be.
I think Amazon would be nuts, and I could definitely see them. I would be very surprised if they haven't thought about it, a live streaming. The only thing about Amazon, though, I don't know if you guys have ever sold cards on there. They're very strict about sellers requirements for certain items. You have to be like really verified to sell like sealed Pokemon product and stuff like that. So I would assume they would go through a similar route. So it'd probably be more like stores on there.
Yep. That's one of
since we have distro, we could probably get in. But
yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
It's one of their like gated categories. I think they have.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of those things are gated to,
which isn't a bad thing.
No,
necessarily.
Yeah. I mean, Whatnot as of right now is not gated, but Nick and I are both streaming on like a gated platform. It's like they and Whatnot at one point was invite only, right? Did you get in when it was like invite only, or were you in when it was
invite
more
only?
Okay, I thought it would have been at that time.
Yeah, it's funny. So actually, really quick, I think it was Walrus, but it might have been somebody else who asked like, why did you go into like live streaming? Like, what market decisions did you have? Or like so early in the game, I think he said.
Oh yeah.
When I joined Whatnot, I thought I was too late. By the way, I didn't mention that. Like I was like, there's all these established streamers on there, and like the numbers they pull are crazy. And then like I started at the bottom, guys. Like I had like 10 people in my show, and then I had like 12 people, and then it was like 15. And it took like time. I mean, you know, these numbers were we haven't talked too much on numbers, but like, you know, it's been three years, almost 4 years of grinding at this. So like it is not an overnight thing by any measure.
That's there's so many ways I could go with it, and there's questions piling up that I will get to, and there's also questions piling up in my brain that I want to ask. Since you kind of opened it there to some numbers, so you mentioned 4 streamers, you talked about getting a second channel eventually. How close? I'm going to hit you with a few at once, and I can recap them if you need me to. How close are you, and do you have the desire to just be 24/7 Master Set Games is live on Whatnot? And because 4 streamers, I mean, you probably could be relatively close if you wanted to. I guess start there. I'll break it into segments so I don't just hit you with a million.
Yeah, I mean, as long as quality stays high, I'm fine with it. I think what tends to happen to the bigger channels on Whatnot is they go 24/7 or very close to, and the quality really declines. And we've had hit or miss with like quality when we scale. But the goal has always been to keep quality high. And that's why I've been so careful, and why I like waited so long to hire more people, because I like want to make sure it's exactly the way that like the pristine this, and like this has to be exactly that way. And maybe I am too picky, but I think that is part of the reason why my business has succeeded. It's just being very picky and over analyzing. So yeah, I'm not against it. As long as quality can remain like where it's at, that would be fine. We need a bigger office though.
Yeah,
for sure.
4 streamers, 10 shippers. Are you? And I guess I partially know the answer to this, because like at conventions, you will leave your booth. Presumably, your other people will still buy. So like, are you the sole sourcer outside of the convention walls, or do you have people sourcing for you on a regular basis as well?
So I am the primary sourcer. However, I work very closely with stores, a lot of stores, as well as people like myself that stream, or they do eBay, and you know they get a lot of extra singles they can't grade or whatever it may be. And so I have these close relationships with a lot of people, and I'm always looking to grow that. By the way, just quick little plug, like DM me if you want to sell cards, but because I'm always buying stuff. But yeah, it's just like I'm always looking for these people that we can work with, as long as it makes sense for both of us. But yeah, I'm the only one really. I mean, it's kind of outsourcing though, because like I'll pay a high price on certain items for them to source them for me. So however you want to think about that, like that's what I do. Like I'll pay a higher percentage for this guy because he gets me these, and I'll pay X dollar per card for these because he's going to give me 10,000 of them a month or a week or whatever it is. So it kind of depends.
And I guess just to do a little more self promo, maybe flood your inbox. What are you generally after? Is there anything you're specifically on right now? Percentages, all that good stuff.
Yep.
And then percentages, I've made multiple videos on how there's no market price for these things, but the more liquid something is, the more it transacts, the closer we are to that. So like when you say 70%, what are you basing that off of, just for everyone's benefit?
So 70% of market price, which would be either like TCG market or TCG low, and then or like an average usually of all last 3 sales. So I generally buy between 70 and 85 in general. There's always exceptions, as you've touched to in your videos. If it's a massive collection and there's a lot of bulk or something like that, it might go down to 60. In general, I try to pay well. I think some people get offended by 70%. It's a number that they like scoff at. But 70 is very reasonable considering platform fees and time, labor. Like our overhead is pretty low for what it is, but it's still high. I mean, our overhead is very large. And I don't think people get that. And I know that not everybody's doing this as seriously as we are, but you say 70%, they're like, that's ridiculous. And it's like, well, if you go sell it on eBay, you're probably left with 87% and then shipping too. And then I just had a fraud case that I lost, and it was 100% fraud. They just swapped the slab out and they said they got something else, and it wasn't an authenticity. So there's $200 down the drain. Like that stuff happens. Like frequently enough. Like you have to factor it into your percentages. So 70 or 80 or 85 with like little to no risk is pretty strong.
Yeah. So I think I know somebody who's in here and he gifted some memberships to Java. He's not a fan of alt, and I actually just bought some cards off him. So some of his cards are very niche mid-era. Sometimes alt will show the last 3 sales were 50, 55, and 58, and somehow the alt value was like 35. Like sometimes alt is really bad at being low. So you don't use that one number as gospel. You kind of look at the actual
Absolutely
sales.
Not. Alt is my quick reference tool. In my opinion, it's the best fast way to price cards, at least very common cards. Anytime in a show or on Instagram or wherever it may be, if there's something like even a little more niche, I will 100% check 130 point or eBay last sold, because alt too, as good and bad as it can be, it will miss things for better or for worse. It will miss stuff. So yeah, I 100% cross reference, but I literally don't have the time. If I'm buying 1,000 slabs or even a smaller lot, 200, you can't, like, a lot of times it's just a price per card when I do those kind of deals. But yeah, always a little bit of extra cross referencing for sure.
Java loves when we talk about alt. But yeah, there was one other thing that came up there too. So you're still doing eBay, you're still doing TCG Player. Percentage wise, I'd imagine 80+% whatnot, and then those are like small things, or are they more of a
whatnot is 99%.
I would have guessed that. Yeah,
that makes sense.
I went low with 80%, but I was suspecting like 90% plus. Yeah,
whatnot's insane.
And then how many? So you or one of your streamers is live just about every day. How many cards are you selling a day?
It just depends. So like we have heavier streams on the weekends. We have more streamers, and a lot of times we do double streams where they'll do one stream early, they'll take a break, go get lunch, maybe sort cards, prep their next stream, and then they do a second stream. We do that a lot. Per stream, it's 400 to 600 cards. And in some days we'll have 6 to 8 streams. So you can do really quick math there on how many cards we're selling. On a slow day, it's 1,000 cards probably, roughly, give or take 100 or 2. And then on a really busy day, you're pushing close to 3,000 cards.
That's wild.
10 shippers makes more sense now.
Yeah, exactly.
And we actually need more shippers too. Like we're at a breaking point right now where we just hired two more. They haven't started yet, so. Yep.
Oh, and I missed this too. Sorry, Spat. I don't know if did you meet Spat before? Did you buy from him some at Chicago? Maybe. I just bought from him a little bit.
I don't believe so, unless I forgot the name. Which, if so, I apologize.
I bought a bunch off of him.
Oh, maybe he was saying it to myself and Nick then. But yeah, I just bought some from Spat myself too. but we do have questions piling up. I'll try to get more of my own into you as we go on.
Yeah,
but
sorry,
I'll
I
try
give
to...
really long responses. I tend to ramble.
Oh, you're
No,
good. You're good.
You're right. You fit in well. You fit in very well. So here's a good one from Mr. Walrus quite some time ago now, almost 30 minutes ago. For people that want to stream and are struggling for inventory, what advice do you have for them?
That's a tough one because the generic answer is like buy bulk lots. But I would
The
say
answer is stay out of my way. It's my inventory.
That's kind of true. No, there is a lot of stuff out there though. I would say like literally don't get discouraged is one of the biggest things I would say. Like if you're posting on Facebook Marketplace or Reddit or Instagram and you're not getting a lot of bites, maybe like check what other people are posting and maybe not copy, but mimic a little bit more what they're doing. And then don't get discouraged when deals fall through too. I always say that about 1 in every 5 deal like actually goes through for me. So like if 5 people reach out to me, 1, if I'm lucky, will actually go through. So literally don't get discouraged. Just stay at it, keep posting, maybe pay a little higher to start. And when you build those relationships and people know you in that community that you buy strong, you buy consistently, you pay up front or whatever it may be, you build that reputation and then you can maybe even cool off what you buy at. That's a strategy I kind of use when I enter a new community. I buy really like a new store that I might work with. I might pay 85% on like singles. I would normally pay 75, but I build that relationship with them. And then I'm like, hey, I just spent $5,000 with you. You know, next show, like if I buy 10K, can we bump it down to 80%? Like that kind of stuff is like 100% something you can do. And I've done before. So it takes a lot of time. Persistence is huge.
My advice would be start collecting 10 years ago when everything was way cheaper.
Yeah, exactly. Get a time machine.
Be a hoarder for 7 years when nothing was selling. Do that all off your main income, and then just go through a boom. We're going through a boom right now, so maybe there's more booms ahead of us. 10,
That's also a very viable strategy.
Yeah. and then the other thing with that is I'd be curious to hear your take, Sam. Is there ever a point where you're comfortable with the inventory you have, or is it just a constant struggle? Because I feel like I'm accepting the fact that I'll never be content with what I have, and it's always just going to be constantly wanting to add more stuff to it.
No, I feel that. I mean, so like, yes and no. It's a gray area. Do we have a lot of inventory? Yes. Do I want more? Absolutely. Right now, just in this room alone, we have we did a count last week, anywhere from like 25 to 30,000 slabs on hand. And I'm stressing right now that we don't have enough, because if we're selling 1,000 a day, we're out in a month.
Yep.
Like a month. And we've seen turnaround times take longer than a month. And right now CGC is at like 3 to 4 weeks. So I'm sweating right now. So I would say in general, I lean towards I need more, which is like more your boat, Nick. I mean, if you wanted to, Nick, you know, you could literally hop on for 24 hours and sell maybe not every card you have, but you could blow through your inventory if you wanted to.
Oh yeah.
And that's a great position to be in. But it also sucks because then you're like, well, I need to space my inventory out because I don't have enough. So no, I definitely feel that pain. I feel that pain.
I had one that I was gonna throw up there and then I forgot which one it was. So this one, Whatnot has an integrated shipping, I would imagine, right? Do they tie in with someone on the back end? Shippo, yeah.
It was Shippo. I don't know if I think it's still Shippo.
That's who Fanatics uses on the back end.
It used to be pretty rough, but now they have like really good. They've improved a lot on the back end, like how it bundles shipments and saves people money. It's a lot more buyer friendly than it used to be. I don't know if it's the same way on Fanatics. I would assume it's somewhat similar if it's the same company.
Yeah, I'm still learning this because it's very new. It's been 2 weeks today, but one question that just came up too. I'm assuming when you take all this to the post office, do they come to you and pick this stuff up multiple times a day, or are you just taking it all to the post office in big bags?
So we take it, and the reason for that is our days are like so inconsistent sometimes. Where like one day we'll have literally 3 cars full, and like by a car I mean like a Subaru Outback. So it's like a sizable car, like you can hold a decent amount of stuff, put the seats down. And then some days it's not that it's none, but it'll be like 2 bags because we're just like behind or whatever it may be. And so I haven't done the scheduled pickups or anything like that, or the timely pickups. So we actually have a bulk drop off really close to us. It's about 1.5 miles away. And they just toss everything in big bags and they take it for us. So it's very hands off.
Do you use scan forms like the manifest that USPS can generate? Or do they just scan it at the hub basically? So
we tried that. There's a couple issues with that. One is they don't work for envelope shipping. So Whatnot uses the same tracked envelopes that eBay uses now.
That's right. Yep.
And the scan forms do not work for that, which is very frustrating because we probably respond to 5 to 20 DMs a day that are just like, where's my envelope at? Like they don't know it's an envelope. They're like, well, where's my $2 single at? And they get really mad about it. But it's like it'll be there in a couple weeks. But so we don't use the scan forms as much because we have to so basically our USPS is so old that they didn't have the correct machinery to scan it. At least that's what they told me. I think they have it now and we should probably start doing it. But at the same time, I don't know. It's just we do so much volume that it's just we kind of just have to throw it out there. And just it just needs to go as fast as it can go, as long as the stuff's not wrong. And then I think they just scan it all in later, whenever. Sometimes there's stuff that's never gets scanned in and we lose money because of that. But literally just the volume we do is so immense. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, I know my first stream I did with PK 2 weeks ago. It took us 6 hours to sell 360, 370 orders or whatever it was. So significantly less and significantly more time.
It's still a lot though.
I went to do the manifest. I think it totaled to 170 individual shipments because people were combining things. I guess on average, people bought 2 items. But the manifest just broke. It uses Shippo. I tried doing it. Would have had to be 2 manifests because scan forms cap at 100, and they just didn't work. I went to my post office, little tiny post office, and I'm just I'm sorry in advance. This is box 1 of 6. They claim at my I'm literally just send it. Just send it. Don't scan it. Let the hub do it. They said we can't. So maybe certain ones will bend the rules, break the rules. Like mine, they manually had to scan all that, and I felt bad. But I'm like, hey, I'm not going to stream very often. The problem is moving to Illinois and Connecticut, so they can deal with it.
Yes.
No, my post office 100% does not scan our packages. I can say that with certainty. 100% does not.
Yeah, so that's probably just them being more comfortable bending, breaking, avoiding the rules, whatever.
Yeah, they're probably not supposed to do that, but they're doing it. 100%.
And I'm sure if I started bringing 1,000 packages a day, I'm sure my post office would figure something out to where, yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I think they're just bulk sending it to the nearest big hub, and then it ideally gets scanned in there. It doesn't always, but ideally it does.
Yeah, because a lot of that's just automated. A lot of that is just it's going across the belt at 1,000 miles an hour, and a machine is grabbing those barcodes. But yeah, that's interesting to think about the actual logistics behind it. We got Walrus saying Dan's asking logistics questions as he exits the logistics. Because ideally, I'm not doing that much of that shipping anyways. Doxing Ponga by saying his home state that he says during his own stream. Sorry, Ponga. Java wanted to know, the one that's updating his resume. So he wants to know, do you think there are any opportunities in Pokemon streaming / consignments for a social media / webmaster type role?
100%. I've thought about it. I just don't know if I can justify the salary. Because it's not that you don't need social media presence or anything. I think it's very important, but we all just kind of get by. I just have a Gmail account, I feel like a lot of us just do that. It's just the way we've done it. And even some of the bigger companies in the industry just have you know what I mean? At Gmails instead of at Troll and Toad, Sam at trollandtoad.com, the fancy emails. I feel like a lot of the hobby, even the bigger buyers and sellers are just they kind of just wing it, in a professional kind of way. But I think that leaves you a lot of opportunity with some of those content creators or stores and stuff. like I would love somebody to do like vendor POVs for me, or follow me around and watch me buy out stores, because I'll go into a Collecticon and spend 100K in the first day on singles and slabs, and I think that could make really cool content. But I don't really like want to make the content, so maybe it wouldn't be. But I think some people would find it interesting,
And
Oh,
done
I'm
well.
sure.
Not only could that be self-funding, like you'd probably have to front load it, you'd have to cover that for the first year or two, but done well, that could easily more than pay the salary of whoever's doing it.
Yeah, I mean the Bulbasaur is like showing off like what you can do with like fun vendor POVs. I think like
The
he's really
lines
excelling in
he
that.
had in Chicago were wild.
Yeah,
That was the first time I actually saw the lines for him, and wow.
It's so weird because I actually know him personally through Reddit, the Pokemon TCG trades subreddit, and he was just like another flipper collector, right? And then like he blew up like all of a sudden, and now I like can't even go say hi to him at Collecticons because he has like a crowd of fans.
yeah.
I'll just like wave to him.
That's been what I've done a couple times. I'm like, hey, I'll come by and I'll say hi, and then it's just like waving, and I'm not gonna wait in an hour line, and I'm not gonna cut a line when he's like at work making his video. But yeah, he's crushing it right now, and maybe in the future, Master Set Games, vendor POVs, like there might be something there if someone wants to reach out.
What did you think of him coming to getting on Whatnot? I think that's a huge win for Whatnot.
Yeah, they've been doing Whatnot has been doing a fantastic job at acquiring these bigger names in the hobby, or just in general. Yeah, no, I think it's awesome. I mean, I think his vendor POVs are great. He has a good personality too, and he knows the cards. Yeah, I think that when they can get big names like that to hop on, like PokeChloe was another big one, I think, for them. And I mean, she's been enjoying it too. I've talked to her about it. I don't want to speak for her, but yeah, I think the Whatnot gets such a bad like rap from so many people, but there's bad sellers everywhere, and there's a lot of really good sellers on Whatnot. You can say if I'm a good or bad seller in your mind, but there's a lot of like awesome people on there that just like want to run a legitimate business and sell cards. So yeah, I think it was a good acquisition for sure.
Retro's got one for you, Nick. So you've been able to pivot quickly, move your entire life to another state, and transition seamlessly. How do you find peace and keep trucking under heavy stress?
Oh, I don't know.
He's just
yesterday, or when was I was supposed to go back to streaming Wednesday. I had to take Wednesday off because I was not in the mood. But no, just hang out, eat something good, watch something good on TV. That was my plan. That was my my coping mechanism the other day.
It's hard to get away from it.
It especially with a setup like this. I got a third like where I do my streams. The middle third is my living room, and then the far third is my shipping station. So even when I'm taking time off, I'm still in the middle of it.
Yep. When I stopped working out of my house and got an office space, it was like one of the best decisions I ever made.
I can definitely believe
it helped
that.
my mental game a lot.
I can definitely believe that.
Spat says an all-nighter at the blackjack table cures all.
Yes, that too. except
any potential financial woes, it exacerbates those. Oh man, that's funny. Here's one that's it's been out for a while. I didn't find a good time to weave it in, but I guess I could have weaved it in when I was showing my Van Gogh Pikachus. When doing the black label play, do you pay for subgrades or do you opt out? Historically speaking, I have been one to do the bulk level, no subgrades. For anyone who isn't aware, if you get a 10, either a 10 pristine gold label or a 10 black label, you will automatically get the subgrades, and they will charge you, I believe, $3 additional per card. Whereas if you get a 9.5 or lower, you'll just get no subgrades. Feels like half the time they mess up and they give you subgrades on your whole order, even when you don't ask for them, at least in my experiences. But for this recent one, for whatever reason, I just decided I was only sending, I think I only sent 15 to 20 Van Gogh Pikachu. So I went for the 35 tier. I've heard so many different tinfoil hat theories of bulk never gets black labels. You only get them at the higher levels. It's pay to play. You only get them on your first submission, blah, blah, blah. Historically, I've gotten pretty reasonable black label rates at just bulk with no subgrades. Do either of you have anecdotes to share on that or anything to add?
I do not send anything to BGS. I sent one time, and it was my first ever submission. I think I sent like 20 of the Unagabas, and I got 3 black labels. So I can believe that about new accounts getting good black label rates after my one experience with them.
I don't send to Beckett a ton. I usually just do grade optimization. So maybe crack something and send it to Beckett that I can 9.5 or 10. That would not get a 10 at PSA because every grading company grades differently. Like Beckett's a little easier on surface. Same with CGC that I've noticed, where PSA will rail you on any surface issues. So yeah, I usually just send bulk though for every company. I just do the cheapest possible option and just throw it all out there and get back what I get back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm assuming. Well, I guess I shouldn't assume anything. Let me just ask the question without any assumptions. Rough percentage PSA, CGC, BGS, and then like why does each one get that percentage if you had to estimate?
Yeah, like 98% goes to CGC every month. 1.5 to 2% PSA, and then maybe there's a Beckett submission. It depends. And those are usually small, like 20 to 50 cards a lot of the time, or unless I'm doing like a really big like GCR. But I usually try to do those at events anyway. Like I was at the National and I GCR'd a few cards shooting for black labels. No luck, unfortunately. But yeah, the main reason with CGC is they're still liquid. I think they've been more accepted by the market over the past couple of years. And then we have a really nice rate with CGC as well. So it's very competitive.
Yeah. Without getting into specifics, something I know personally firsthand and something I know from talking to other people too, CGC and Beckett will work more substantially, like percentage-wise, from the retail rates, whereas PSA is like, if they're $14.99 public, they're not 10 private. They're like, oftentimes the specials, the monthly specials that everyone gets will match or like slightly beat what the private deals are. So, and then just the price point thing too. I mean, if one is 15 and the other one's a significant fraction of that, like that's just a huge thing too, I'd imagine. And then you do get it. I made a recent video talking about it, but the pristines generally do quite well. Like they get a decent premium to PSA 10s. Yeah. Some amount of people out there, I know PSA stands don't like to hear it, but PSA does grade too easily for a lot of these cards. And having that way to delineate the top 25 percentile, the top 10 percentile, as opposed to just throwing 90% of cards into this one bucket of PSA 10, like that matters to some people.
I consider myself a PSA fanboy because I was grading with them a little bit in like the Evolutions era. Not a ton, but I was grading and I like built up a collection of PSA slabs and I'd like everything to be uniform. But so like I get it from that perspective, but I think like not embracing CGC at all if you're a business is a mistake. It doesn't make you a bad person or anything. It's just like I think it's a mistake because like there's a play there, just like there is for Beckett.
For sure.
And the rates can be so strong too. And the market, like you said, like I've sold multiple high-end pristine 10s for significantly higher than PSA 10, like 20-30%, which I think is very strong for a CGC slab. Ponchos, pristine ponchos are pretty tough to get, and I think Beckett and CGC have seen higher than PSA 10.
And then when you get the Gem Mint 9.5 at Beckett or you get the Gem Mint 10 at CGC, you crack it out and then you get the freebie PSA 10. I mean, that's just what it is, right? You pay. Like, I have some cards at Beckett that if they hit the 9.5, they're going to PSA next. Like that's just the way that it goes sometimes. You pay that small percentage to buy that ticket into the lotto, and then sometimes it hits and sometimes it doesn't.
Definitely.
Which that gets into the frustration that some people have. How repeatable? We could go down that whole rabbit hole, but I think we've been down that so many times. And even PSA, I mean, there are people that crack PSA 9s to get PSA 10s, and that's always going to be some amount of a thing. Again, I'm failing taking questions at times in a timely manner when they make sense. Back to when half an hour ago when we were talking about you hiring a streamer. Sorry, Pokey South. What is the most important? I guess I'm gonna expand it to 3. The 3 most important things you look for.
Yep, I would say sales aptitude. So like some people have inherent ability to sell things well, whether they know it or not. Like I said, I worked in sales, so I kind of have an idea. And as a manager there, I was in charge of hiring our sales team. So I kind of have a knack for that. So I'd say sales aptitude. The coachability is huge. I consider streaming a sales job. Like you're selling yourself and you're selling a product at the same time, which makes it tricky. So I would say if you can learn and be able to be coached and take criticism, that's huge. And then the other one is probably willingness to move. That kind of goes into like a couple things, like kind of like I'm looking for people who are willing to go all in, I guess. Like make that, like obviously if you have a family, maybe don't do that. It's probably a bad idea. Or at least like check with your family first. But yeah, like willingness to kind of go all in and be here with us and be part of our team. One thing we do actually with new streamers, if they're remote, is we fly them out for like 2 weeks and let them stream and make sure it's a good fit before we're like, hey, move across the country, like, because it's a little unreasonable to be like, hey, just come work here and maybe it'll work and maybe it won't.
And logistically, and if you didn't mention that as one of your 3, I was going to bring that up. That's like a firm deal breaker, right? Like they have to be on site. They cannot be remote. Pretty much, it sounds like. Yeah.
Yep.
And that makes sense because, as I said, part of it is like the trust level thing, but another part of it is the huge build out that you have. You have 10 shippers there that service multiple streamers. You don't want to have to hire remote again, a designated shipper just for that one person. So that only makes sense.
Yeah.
And we've thought about like having them overnight packages that we would ship then, but then you have more shipping costs. You have delayed shipping times. It's just, there's no easy solution, unfortunately.
Yep. See, Nick was going through some of that, talking about maybe overnighting some stuff to Walrus in Chicago. Nick moved his whole operation to his employee. So Nick went the other way with it. I mean, instead of bringing people to him, Nick just flies out to whoever's working for him.
any random Joe Schmo.
Ponga says, Dan, can you buy me the master set streaming class as a Christmas bonus? Oh man. Good question though, Pokey South. Sorry I didn't take it in a more timely manner. We did touch on this one earlier, but I guess we can hit it again briefly. Would any of you guys ever set up a brick and mortar shop / office space to complement 24/7 streaming? The only way I could see myself doing it is in 5 or 10 years from now, if like I built a good relationship with somebody that was running one of my locals and they wanted to sell it to me to retire, and it was turnkey. They already had a good manager instated, and I would still be so hesitant to do it because like if that manager ever just went on to something else, it's like I would have to step in there, right? Like the owner has to step in and do whatever role necessary in the event that other people can't do their part. So less than a 1% chance you ever see a physical KetchumAllCollectibles store.
I don't know. I can see the pros to it. Short term, it's not a shot it'll happen. Long term, I think it would be kind of fun. My whole thing would be more so like similar to what Trading Card World does, where they have they're in like an office building and they use it for their streaming and shipping and all that stuff. But then they have one area where people can actually come in and buy stuff. It would be more so set up like that, where it would be mainly an office / shipping area, but then there would be a small portion for people to actually like display stuff and have people come in. But I think that would be really fun if it'll ever happen. We'll see.
Yeah, I think just the risk is so high when you think about a brick and mortar. You can look up a million maybe not a million, but you can look up a bunch of videos online or on YouTube. And I mean, Rudy rants about it probably every other month. Just like why it's such a bad idea to open up a brick and mortar. And if you run the numbers in your head or write them down for 10 minutes, it very quickly makes sense why it's like highly risky. And even just like looking around at my local stores, like we have an LGS go out. We don't have that many. We have like 3 to 5 at all times where I live. And there's like 1 or 2 that go out of business every year.
Yeah.
Like every year. Like it's a small sample size, but that's terrible odds.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think even if you know what you're doing, it could fail. Like that's the scary part too, you know, like one bad set release, you know, or like just something, you know, it happens to the building that you need to pay for, you know, if that's in your contract, and like it wipes out your bank account, and like, you know, there's just so many things. I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I actually really like being online, partly because I can get kind of a brick and mortar experience by going to Collecticon. You know, I like set up a little shop. People like it's obviously not the same thing, but it's similar.
You do it when you
and
want to do it on your own terms. Yeah.
Exactly. And I really like that. And it's fun in little bursts. But if I was tied down to like, if I had to go show up at Collecticon every day, 9 to 9 or noon to 9 or whatever my store hours were, I think I would quit. Like I wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, I left my job largely in part to like just the freedom, and that's going backwards in freedom, tying myself to a physical location, or like all the staffing and stuff too. That's a backward step for me. And even though it would open up the people sourcing coming in, it would open up the premium, not having to pay shipping and all that stuff. There's pros to it, but the cons vastly outweigh them for me. That's not like an absolute universal objective thing. That's just for me. But at some point, I always have several videos planned down the line in the works. And I have one on like why I am not opening an LGS anytime soon. I actually, probably 8 years ago, probably a couple years into my Pokemon endeavor, I went around, not seriously, just as like an exercise, something I could throw in a spreadsheet and have a little fun with numbers. I went around and I called. I didn't schedule any like in-person showing of a commercial space because I didn't want to waste the time of like, I know I wasn't there, but I drove by some. I went online LoopNet and I was looking at what the leases were. And I like ran the numbers on what running an LGS would be. And that was like 8 years ago that I did it. That's when the market was vastly different from now. But it's just not for me. So I need to dig up that old spreadsheet. I need to update it for today and then show in a video why I'm not doing it.
That would be an interesting video.
Who is this? Nick, it's your mother. You left all your pants in Massachusetts. I don't know what you're wearing right now, but I hope it's warm. Is this one of your eBay Live customers or something?
I have no idea.
That's hilarious. Oh man. Thanks for hopping in. I don't know how to pronounce that. Edugantor or something. That ties in well with this one I started from Mr. Walrus. Thoughts on homies keeping their home cold AF and having to buy a space heater. Is that a reference towards you, Nick? I didn't even notice.
It was like 64 in here the other day.
Oh, that's perfect. See,
thank you.
Back in college.
It's not time
at all.
to turn the heat on yet.
Yeah, not at all because we were cheap college kids, which we were, but not at all for that reason. We used to keep our apartment 60 back in college. Like I'm currently wearing a t-shirt and basketball shorts. That is all I ever want to wear, and 60 is perfect for that. Like right now it's like, yeah, it's 68 in here. I've got a wife and kids who don't let me keep the thermostat at 60. And demonstrating that it's not a cost thing, I would do 60 in August if I could. I would do that with the AC if I could, but I can't. So I got to have it 69, 70. But I'm very much on the don't turn the heat on until like Thanksgiving.
My problem is my feet get cold. Like I have like vinyl plank flooring. That stuff gets like frigid. So I just got to wear slippers and then I'm good.
Then you're golden. Our 2 houses ago, when I lived with my parents, they had radiant heat, which was really nice because the floor was just always warm. But that was a funny little. That was hilarious. I did not. You can call me by my Christian name, Edish. Well, thanks for hopping in, Edish.
Edish is a regular in the eBay Lives.
Okay, there we go. I figured it had to be one of your regulars or something. That's hilarious. Spats cards, what volume is required for a lower CGC rate? I don't know that they have strict numbers or anything. I unfortunately don't have an answer for you there. I don't know if either Nick or Sam do, but if you're grading a lot with them, it's kind of one of those things like you have to grade a lot with them and then just like reach out, shoot your shot. Worst they say is you're not there yet and you keep paying what you're paying already. So, and CGC does have a little bit of like pay to play for a better rate. I think it's $300 for the year to get their lowest rate, which pays for itself as long as you're grading. I mean, you can do the math on what it is, but so pay for the highest rate, get the unlock by payment one, and then ask them, go from there. That's all I can really say on that.
So there's one tier you can get below that called the dealer rate, and it's even better, but you have to apply. So you can't pay for that one. You might have to still pay the highest rate, but it's application based.
Okay,
so you have to apply, and it's lower than the advertised. I forget what they call their membership, premium or whatever it is.
I don't remember.
It's lower than that, and then if you are doing higher volume, there's potential to get lower than that. We are grading over 20,000 cards a month right now, so if you're hitting those numbers, you're definitely looking at something competitive. For sure.
I don't imagine anyone is hitting 20,000 cards a month on the sticker prices, but if they are, then bless CGC because they're feasting on that.
yeah, right.
Oh man. Let's see. So Pokemon DK. Again, this is a question that was in here for a while. We did briefly touch on the broader market, but are we in a full Pokemon bull market, or is 151 just a prelude? When will the bulls shift their attention to the real treasures in the celebration set?
Yes, thank you. Celebration.
I would say we are in a massive bull market. Pokemon is so broad, diverse that you can point at individual things and say, well, this is down, that is down. And Nick mentioned earlier that WotC is not feeling in the same way as a lot of things, but another upcoming video. I've sold, very anecdotal, very small sample size, but I've sold some massive sales. I'm going to do a couple Instagram posts this weekend on like double the last auction. There's only been one or two, like relative to modern. Some of these vintage cards in PSA 10, they might only sell 3 times a year because there's only 50 copies. And you're never going to have the swings. You're never going to have the hype. You're never going to have all the YouTube headlines because the market depth isn't there. But like I put PSA 9 Shining Gyarados up behind me. I kind of set it back as like personal collection, favorite art in the hobby. I put that back 6 months ago, 10 months ago, maybe. I don't remember, when it was like $1,400. I think that card's like $2,400 now. Like there are a lot of cards in vintage that are not only creeping up, but they're like 40, 50, 100% gains, certain cards. So modern is on fire. Japanese ultra modern sealed, aside from 151, it is not really in that market it was a year ago, but there's always ebbs and flows. It's a broad wide, but I would, if I had to classify it as bull or bear market, we're in a massive bull market across the, like, not universally, but in most things for sure. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. It's tough to imagine it getting more bullish than it is now. I think it could happen, like I said earlier, with a home run type set release. Because outside of 151, we haven't seen much in modern, and there's so many people just waiting for it to drop. Once we actually do get something really good, it's gonna go wild.
Yeah, it feels like 2020 and 2021 was this giant bubble, and it kind of burst, and now we get like these pockets, like where this explodes and then this explodes and it pops and it cools off, and it's just like the cyclical nature where just one or two things or three things is always kind of going up, and then there's like these other things that are just overlooked, like how vintage has been overlooked, and I've seen some really significant upticks in vintage sales, and I've just been like selling so much more of it for higher prices. So yeah, it's interesting the way it works.
Yeah, it's wild, some of the things out there. There's actually some cards that, like, putting myself back in like 5 years ago, Collector Boy Dan, before the pandemic, before going full time, before all this stuff like turned me into an evil capitalist monster. There are certain cards that were next on my want list, next on my to-do list, that are getting back down into territory that, like, man, I might stray into the collector area a little bit more in the coming months and years if that continues, because as like certain WotC things are kind of running up, modern's going nuts, but like there are other things. And I guess if people have followed me for a long time, they would know what certain things I kind of had on my radar next that I thought I'd never own because they kind of got away from me. Some of those things have fallen 60, 70, 80%, and they're in the vicinity of where I might go for it. But anyways, Squeaks wants to know if that Stadium 2 poster is for sale or not.
It is not. It was actually a gift from a friend. My roommate in college, he was a judge, and his dad was also a judge. So they judged a lot of events, and they worked closely with a lot of stores. So they have a ton. He actually has a pile of. They like came in cases. I don't know if you know. They came in cases, and it was like 100 of them at once. And he has one in his house. So he gave me one last time I visited. It's pretty cool.
Sweet.
Nice. Yeah. Walrus says Hidden Fates, Celebrations, and now 151. Anytime YouTubers champion a set, it's the most stagnant thing ever. 151 is a pass. That's a very hot take. I think that's an interesting take. But yeah, I guess we can pivot into that. Is 151 the next Celebrations? Like as of right now, as we record this, as we're live, I want to say 151 UPCs are like 200 now, right? Let me verify that number before I run with it. But I mean, I expected 151 UPCs to be 200 someday. But as I've said in Pokemon, yeah, 197.09 on TCG Player as we're here right now. Squeak sold one last night for 200. Like when I was setting X and Y era booster boxes back, my price targets were 5 or 10 years from now, $300, and then everything happened so much quicker. A lot of the WotC stuff that I was collecting, I was doing it more as a collector, but I still was doing it with like future appreciation in mind. And when I remember I had a collection at one point, it was very nearly, and Jake Pokenomics almost bought it off me, and I'm glad he didn't. But I owed about 60 grand out of my house, and my collection was worth about 60 grand. I threw it all up on eBay just to see, like, hey, I would pay off my house if somebody bought this from me. That was right before the boom happened, and thankfully I took it down. Thankfully it didn't end up selling. But I envisioned that someday being worth $100,000, $200,000. I didn't envision it being 6 months later. So like one thing I said earlier, and I'm constantly saying, Pokemon just exceeds my expectations time and time again. I keep feeling that someday we're going to have a big calming, cooling period where people aren't just crazy over everything, but it hasn't happened yet. And I still believe it, but I'm still like holding I have a lot of inventory that's always for sale, but I have a lot of inventory that's not for sale anywhere right now. Now that I have live streaming going, like I'm going to have more of a constant bleed. And if I don't substantially pick up my sourcing, I will be kind of dwindling. But yeah, I'm just constantly in this space of like, and Sam, how much investing do you do? Like how much product do you have on hand, if any, that is kind of like waiting for the future price appreciation, not actively listed for sale? I know I said a lot there, but
yeah, I have a substantial amount and sealed.
So you set back English, Japanese, both?
Both. Right now, I'm going really heavy on Japanese. I think it's significantly undervalued.
Like the $30 boxes?
Some of them are 20.
Yeah. When I say
so, but yes,
that's like full retail on eBay. Yes.
It's insane. Yeah. I like, yeah. So I'm just hoarding pallets of a lot of these sets and just adding to it. I'm a big Rudy follower, so think of me however you want, but I like sealed product a lot.
Is that something you did historically, or if not, when did that start?
So unfortunately, I only kept about one of every set when I started. Still did okay with that for sure. You know, black and white boxes especially have been really going well. But Yeah, I wish I had kept more. Obviously, hindsight is 2020. Because I was ripping Next Destiny's boxes for $80, chasing a $70 Mewtwo back then. And now Next Destiny's is like $3,000. So, we all have those stories for sure.
Yeah, I'm doing mixed palettes, so I'm not doing like palettes of an entire product or anything. And I don't know what you meant exactly
That's
when you
how
said
I am.
that, but
I'm just storing stuff in massive sections. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I am definitely doing a bit of it. Historically, I did it, but it used to be a case of every set, and then it was 2 cases of every set. These days, I target 20 cases of every set, but then like when English is doing what it's doing, I end up selling some stuff earlier, assuming a reprint comes. Sometimes it comes, sometimes it doesn't. So it's like I'm navigating it the best way that I can, but it's always going to be imperfect. But I actually have 6 months ago, I'm actually due for an update anytime now. I did a palette video, and I actually have my dad. My dad's like a 50% partner buying into that product with me, which is a little bit scary because like once your parents, once your barber, once these people start talking about investing it with you, that's usually when you run for the hills. That's usually a top signal.
Yeah.
But Pokemon just keeps trucking along. It's funny, time capsuling. Like 6 months ago, when I made that video, people were like, "Why are you're pawning off Obsidian Flames? You're pawning off Paldea Evolved on your poor dad. He's gonna get wrecked. Like you're just selling your losses to him." That stuff's up 20, 30, 40% now. Like Twilight Masquerade, I set aside immediately. And I used to wait 2 years to set stuff aside. I used to wait till approximately the reprint window. I've been setting aside 8 to 10 cases right at the jump because I don't know if they're just going to run away from me forever. And then if they don't run away from me when a reprint comes, Paldea Evolved, I had to pay 105, but I put those 4 cases back with the original 8 or whatever. So it's like I know more people are doing it than ever. And I know a lot of the people that are doing it to a higher degree than they ever were. And at some, I truly think, not to the extent of Junk Wax 90s, but at some point we will look back and we will say, I really wish I didn't go as hard. It was obvious how many people were doing it, that we were bound to have a dark period. But I in spite of feeling like I know that's going to happen, I'm still doing it because I've been too many times proven to be too pessimistic or whatever, and we'll see how that all goes. But right now, we're not alone doing it.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's not like other times though, with how much is being opened on a daily basis on all these live viewing platforms. There is so much product being opened.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fueling the fire. A lot of it, not the whole thing, but I think it's also like the only thing that like I kind of going back to the original question. The thing about like 151 going up right now, like that feels like a bubble to me.
Yes,
because they can reprint it still into the ground, and they probably will. I would guess. I don't know for sure, but they probably will. I mean, Japan keeps getting reprints for 151, but it keeps recovering. So like,
but occasionally,
when's it going to stop? I don't know.
Pokemon will leave us guessing because occasionally they will team up us. Occasionally they will not get that last reprint. And even Evolving Skies, it did get beat down with like 4 or 5. It could have gotten more even. Like it could have gotten more, but it didn't. And even like Roaring Skies years ago, that was one that got beat to the ground with the reprints. And then in spite of that, years later, it's still doing crazy things. What is it? $700 box now? It's so wild.
Yeah, the printed into the ground thing keeps changing every couple years here. It's it was a small print run compared to now, so it just
back in a year where they printed several billion only and not 10 billion plus, which
Roaring Skies was I think $69.99 wholesale on eBay for like a year or two, and nobody wanted it.
Yep. Wild how far we've come. Brad says, Dan's dad, what's a battle academy? Don't worry, Dad. You got 1,000 of them. That's hilarious. No, I'm doing it a little bit with Japanese too. I'm probably not doing it to the extent that I should be with some of the like $25 sets in that vicinity. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know if you care to share or not, but I do a fair bit of like traditional market type stuff too. I know some people, a lot of people in the space seems like don't touch that at all. And there's good arguments to be made for like, I'm going to keep my money where I have an edge, where I have the knowledge, experience, all that stuff. Do you do any of that, or are you like all cardboard?
Yep. VT sacks all the way.
Oh, I love to hear that.
Yeah. So I got, I think it was like 2017, right when I graduated college, that I found fire. And
Now we're
so
talking.
now I'm pursuing more FI versus retiring early, because I think if I had enough to just like quit right now and never work another day in my life, I would be so bored. I think I would just keep doing this, and I would just it would just be without any financial stress or less of it at least. So that's kind of what I'm pursuing now. So yeah, VT sacks is the main one for sure. Just every week I pour some in there, just automatic. Don't even think about it.
In those tax advantage buckets, or are you all post-tax guy?
It's both. So I max out the Roth, and then I have just a regular brokerage, with the thought that if I retire early, I can access it easier. Maybe it's less advantageous, but yeah.
Don't sleep on Roth conversions. Don't sleep on substantially equal periodic payments. There are a lot of, we don't need to turn this into that. We'll try to retain our viewership where it is, but
sure.
Let's bring it back here, Dan.
I like that we dipped into that a little bit. Maybe some night at a Collecticon over some beers, we'll have to talk in depth.
That sounds good.
But yeah, it's always interesting. My big thing is, even though I know the risks and I think people need to be conscious of the risks, I'm still doing it at a level larger because I know the upside. It's like the downside is fixed and known. And I think even if we get it, so say we get that 2 to 5 year period where things are dark and there might be $70 booster boxes on eBay, I can hold through that. Rudy can hold through that. I'm set up in a way where I don't need to tap into that. A lot of people will have to. And I'll be ready to buy some amount of that kind of stuff. And I truly believe, even if Pokemon goes through a 5 year lull, 5 year down period, I think it'll come out the other side again. And I think it's going to outlive all of us. And I hope it does. So I'm, in spite of knowing what the downside is, and my biggest fear is just the amount of people that talk so endlessly bullish and don't even acknowledge the downside. I feel a lot more cozy though when I'm hearing like a Rudy talk about it. And he, like, I believe that he will weather the downside and he won't be dumping 1,000 Twilight Masquerade at $50 to like keep the lights on.
Yeah, I think being able to weather the storm is really important. Like, I view it as an alternative VT sacks in a way. Like my collectibles, like VT sacks, like total Pokemon market index fund. And maybe it's pissing some people off by saying that. Like, I'm sure it's going to trigger some people, but that's how I view it. But it's also not my nest egg. So like if I lose it, it was a calculated risk.
Mm-hmm. So you're not like a set picker. You're not like, you're just buying a little bit of everything pretty much.
I buy a little bit of everything, but there are 100%
you go bigger
runs. So like when 151 sealed Japanese was down in the like 50, 49, it was like it was touching that mark for a short time. I went deeper than I've ever went.
Nice.
And now it's nice when you it immediately jumps back up. That doesn't normally happen, but then it like hit 100. Now I think it's in the 80s, 90s.
Are you unwinding that at all in anticipation of more, or are you just sat firm on what you have?
I started doing that, and then I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I making $20 a box or $30 a box? It's like, it's so annoying. I'd rather just sell slabs.
Mm-hmm. I'd rather Squeaks wants to know how deep.
Very
you don't have
deep.
to share if that's okay. Yeah. Squeaks may or may not be quite deep on 151 UPCs, and I've had this conversation with him. I had some of it at Chicago, some of it just in Discord DMs. Like, so he's impressed by the so deep. It's like when these things hit when these things hit your price targets that you set for years down the line, when they hit those in months, it's like you kind of need to reevaluate. But if you don't need the money, like if that capital being tied up there is not handicapping your business, if you're not like you went to Chicago, if you didn't have the cash to buy collections that were laid out in front of you because that was in 151 Japanese, you probably would unspool some of that position, right? But you set up your positions in a way that just work with all the other moving parts. Like that's the big part about it. Pongo's gonna sell Squeak's exact amount. I know to the number, like a very specific number. It's not a round number. It's a very odd number, but I know the exact number that he has too. Let's see. We are almost done with questions. We're still gonna be going for like another 45, 50 minutes. So feel free to leave the questions. Not too much of a backlog right now.
That's why Squeak sold a UPC last night, is to get him back to an even number.
Now he's probably on an even case number. Retro wants to know Spy, VT Sax, Vu, like Schwab, and like all these. A lot of them are the same things, but you got to be careful chasing. Like one thing I used to talk with a lot of my coworkers, they look at like, oh, well, per my age, I should be in the Retire Smart 2040, 2050, whatever it is. But I want to go all in on the developing because 10 years ago, that one had the best 1 year, 5 year track record. And it's like, you shouldn't just chase what has performed the best to date. You should make your decision based on like speaking with a financial advisor and yada, yada, all that. We don't need to go into all this, but I did want to highlight the comment. Be careful out there. There's a lot of people trying to take all your money in a lot of these different things. And my wife's too. My wife is a teacher, works at a school. 403B is what we have in New York. I don't know if every other state is different or how that is, if it's federal. Her 403B is honestly disgusting. I sat in a room with a financial advisor who worked on behalf of that. They have 5.5% sales loads. And they knew very quickly who they were talking to. They knew very quickly they were talking to someone who was disgusted by what they were saying. And like, they didn't even try to sell me on it. Like, they were salespeople that knew it was better for them to not try to sell to me. Because I'm like, hey, this was when I still worked at my former company. I said, I have a 401k that has these options. We have Vanguard IRAs that have these options. And they're like, they didn't even try to say what they had was better. 5.5% sales load. So every $100 you put in, only $94.50 made it into the fund. That stuff existing in 2024 is like disgusting.
It's like hundreds of thousands of dollars over 40 years.
Yeah, like, and then on top of that, it was bad expense ratios too. Like when I had Vanguard funds that were 0.1, 0.2, 0.3%, these were like 1.1, 1.3, like absurd. But Nick's falling asleep because I'm talking. But retro made me. Even people who call themselves fiduciaries don't even know what that word means and will not do their fiduciary duty for you. So be careful out there. Let's get back to Pokemon. So Nick's mother is back in the chat. Honest question. PSA just partnered with Courtyard and are treating valued cards as NFTs, ? You get 1% of NFT sales. Thoughts about that? I am roughly, vaguely familiar with what Courtyard is. My understanding of Courtyard is that you can buy like a digital mystery pack and then you can open it. You can sell it back to them for some percentage of market value, or you can pay money to have it fulfilled to you. I have no idea of the partnership with PSA. I have no idea of this 1% thing that he's talking about. Do either of you have any insight on that?
I do not. I have no idea.
I mean, I see the Courtyard stuff in my feed on Instagram, but I'm not huge into like mystery anything. So like, I don't really care if people do it as long as they're not scamming people. But like, when there's like mystery pulls and stuff, I could care less. Like when like on our channel, we just sell cards like for whatever price they get, and that's how we've always done it. So I could care less. I'm also not that huge into NFTs, so yeah, I don't think I'm the right person to comment on it.
I know I've seen things because I own some amount of crypto. I'm not a big NFT guy, but I have some amount of NFTs. But I've seen different things in the past where if you buy them, you get like royalties. So, and then the owner gets royalties too. So certain NFTs are built in a way where when it's sold between people, the original owner of everything will get some percentage royalty, and then former owners will too. So like say Sam mints some NFT and then he sells it to me. If I sell it to Nick, Sam will get a 5% royalty because he was the original creator or whatever. And then if Nick sells it to Walrus, Sam will again get some amount and I'll get some amount. I'm roughly familiar with that functionality. If PSA is tied in with a company who's doing that with cards, I would be surprised. I would be surprised if there were any downline like royalties on cards like that. So this is news to me, and I'm kind of skeptical that the news exists in the way that it's presented, but it could be. Like, I have no idea. I think we're fully caught up on questions. So if anyone has any, what do you guys want to talk about? Like, what's exciting this weekend? What's coming up? Are you doing Houston, Sam, to wrap up the year?
Yep, I'll be at Houston. I think we have 2.5 sections for our group. So we usually get big. I think it's like the Pokenomics group. We have different people book a couple different sections, and we're all like kind of try to be next to each other. So I'm excited for that one. My brother also lives in the area, so I'll be flying in and hanging out with him a little bit too. I like Texas. I think it's fun to visit.
What's your go-to? I'm a big food guy. Whenever I'm traveling somewhere, I got to have the local. Are you that way? Like, what's your go-to food in Texas?
We usually try to try different stuff. Our buddy lives nearby, and so does my brother, so they know some local spots. I wouldn't consider myself a foodie, but I like good food. We did. So in Houston, there's a really good Mexican seafood place called La Fisheria. It is incredible. Highly suggested. La Fisheria. It's close by too. It's like a 20-minute walk. So if that's too far, it's like a 3-minute Uber. I'm probably going to be going there and taking some people. I've been before. It's delicious.
I wrote that down. Interesting.
Yeah,
I'm not making that Houston, but
you might change your mind about Houston now.
I can't go to this one, but down the line, I'll probably end up at one again. Though Houston is one, I fly out of Syracuse, small airport to small airport. There's no direct flight, which is like it's a big check in the con column for Houston. And I don't go to 10 or 12 a year. I go to like 2 to 4 a year. So I'd be surprised though if I didn't end up in Houston again eventually.
Yeah, I mean, they had 2 shows this year just there. So I think the owners of Collecticon are in Texas.
Yeah.
I could be wrong on that. So it makes sense. They have, 3 or 4 Texas shows?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they did 2 Dallas, 2 Houston, I believe, this year.
Yeah, I think one was Dallas and one was Fort Worth, but very close.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's one of those things where certain people that are locals, they get very offended when you call it Chicago Collecticon. It was not Chicago Collecticon.
Yep.
It was whatever it is.
Rosemont Collecticon.
Rosemont Collecticon, yeah. A lot of people get very I don't know if there's ever a Collecticon that's like in the true, I guess maybe some of them are, but anyways. What are you doing, Nick? What's going on? What are you selling live tonight on eBay?
Yes, tonight's the return to eBay Live. Chicago was a lot of fun, but that was way too much going on between the move, Chicago, getting everything set up in my apartment, recovering from Collecticon. There was way too much going on. So I'm glad to O'Hare. I'm glad to be getting back into a normal schedule. Going live tonight at 8 Central, and then again on Saturday night. So it'll be fun to get back into a rhythm of things.
Thrifty, what have you got? We'll start the bidding at 60%. I'll start at 60%, and then we'll bid up from there. You got 3 guys ready to buy.
We all need inventory.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe with a meme, maybe something was just born there. Live buying. Who's going to be running live buying streams? I mean, you get a few buyers on stream, and then they're bidding it out for. There's probably nothing there, but like there could be something there. Who knows?
I'd be worried about trolls hopping in.
Yeah.
Trying to sell weird stuff.
There's a lot of holes to poke in that little business plan that I had, but hey, we're starting at 60. That's a solid floor. We're only gonna bid up from there. I mean, come on.
Yeah, we don't even know what's there.
We don't even know what you have yet. It could be super dark. Yeah. I mean, a blind 60. That is a solid start.
That is. There's actually a place I would sell you at 60%, Dan.
One thing that makes me think of, everyone has stuff that they would sell for 60% and lower. Everyone has that. Anyone who's been around for any amount of time. That makes me think too. So Pokemon is what the vast majority of us are. Do you do much Lorcana, One Piece, Magic? Do you dabble in any other thing, or is it all Pokemon?
I do Magic. more for fun. So I play Commander. There's been a lot of drama around that recently. I don't know if you guys keep up with it. We don't have to get into it, but there's been a lot of drama. I have to like redo all my decks now, which is a little frustrating, but also exciting. Magic's more of a fun thing for me though, but I have bought and flipped some Magic stuff. I don't do anything else though.
I'll follow with one little question. I'm vaguely familiar with what happened. Jeweled Lotus, and I sold one of the Mana Vault. Mana Vault was one.
Mana Crypt.
Mana Crypt. Okay, Mana Crypt. So apparently the cards got banned by some group of people who no longer do the banning. Wizards took that back.
Yep.
There's rumors that it might be unbanned. Has there been any progression on that? Has anything been unbanned yet?
Nothing yet, but I think Magic Vegas is coming up really soon, and there's rumors that they are going to have the new like rule set out before then. So the rumor is like within the next month or so. So we'll see, because I think all the prices pretty much recovered, except I think maybe Dockside Extortionist.
Yeah,
I think everyone thinks he's going to stay banned.
I have one consigner who has some amount of Magic with me, and the Mana Crypt was one. I got the amount of, in very small scale, very anecdotal, like it wasn't dozens of messages. It was maybe like 5 messages across a week or two. I got messages on my Jeweled Lotuses. I got messages like, hey, haha, like people that were like laughing at me because my card was now worthless. Like, haha, you investor scum, your card's worth nothing. But funny enough, like those cards have been listed for months. I didn't change the prices. The Mana Crypt sold. So like the price tanked 90% or whatever it was. And then the price came back, and like it was in the news. It got bought. One of them got bought for like several $100s in a CGC 9 or whatever it was. But it was funny to me, the amount of vitriol that I got. Like people were very pleased because these are graded ones too. I think in Magic, they're a lot more against grading, broadly speaking. So people were just like victory lapping on eBay sellers who could you imagine this being your like evening plans? Going on to eBay, I'm gonna search up PSA Jeweled Lotuses and I'm gonna laugh at every guy who has one because he's an investor who got wrecked or whatever. That was just funny to me.
Magic's a very split community, and like half like want their like cards to be worth a lot of money, and half of them
game
like
pieces
want them to be super cheap. And I think there's a happy medium
too.
So I don't know. I proxy a lot of my like dual lands. Like, you know, I just don't trust Wizards to never ban something. Or the RC, but they're not around anymore. So
as with a lot of things in life, lines in the sand are drawn, and people are very divided, and there are very loud people on both sides, but usually that's like the vocal minorities on each side, and a lot of people do reside somewhere in the gray.
The one upside with that kind of stuff, even though it's negative comments, is like you can tell it's a passionate community. You know, maybe like that's the negative side of it, but you know, there is it's a huge community that people care about. Not saying that they're justified in any way.
No, I know. That was just funny to me how I was listening to videos, hearing that they went down a lot, and then I was hearing they were coming back, and then one just got sold at like its full ask price, and very anecdotal, but like it was just a funny little thing to tie in.
TCG player graphs are really funny on those if you look at them, like Jeweled Lotus, like down like a rock and then straight back up. It's very funny.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's interesting. So Sky wants to know. Sky actually is that one guy that runs my TCG player currently. I need to restock him at some point. I still need to figure out, like, having just started live streaming. Like you said, you're 90. I forget what that was for.
No, I
said, that was for whatnot.
99. 98%, whatnot. Maybe it was 99. You're right. Yeah, I don't know. That's high.
I think it was 98, 1 to 2%. Or maybe I'm thinking of PSA CGC BGS.
That was
98 PSA.
Yeah. Whatnot's 99%. Yeah, that's
okay.
Right. Roughly.
Yeah, I don't know my new percentage, but like Sky, so you're less than 1% TCG player. It like what? I guess that's an interesting question to do because I still am not fully decided on what my future will be. But like, what card? Presumably, if it's gem quality and the margin's there, if you get a 151 Zard, that baby's going to PSA if it's gem, right? When and what cards go to TCG Player over live?
Yep. So when I buy collections, and we've all done this if you've ever bought a big collection, you get cards you probably don't want. Especially if you're paying like a really good percent, right? Like let's say you pay like 60, 70%. You're probably getting like a binder or some binders, singles, and there's some that are just like gold trainers is a good example maybe. Where like those will not do well at auction most of the time. Unless you happen to have players who need them, which is probably very rare. So like a lot of playables go on TCG Player.
Okay.
That's a great example. Another one is vintage, actually. Some of them are really high on TCG Player and they sell. Like sell-through's high. Good example is like non-hollow rares, like WotC rares, First Ed and Unlim. Some of them are playable in vintage decks, and then some of them are just harder to find because they're rares. Some of them are 10, 15, 20 bucks. If I auctioned a non-hollow first edition WotC rare on Whatnot of some stupid trainer, it would probably get $1, maybe 3, 5, maybe. But on TCG, I'm getting like 15. So like that's generally what I'm listing on there for the most part.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I obviously in a perfect world, you would divert every product to the most profitable platform, but the amount of time you would have to spend trying to determine that, the uncertainty around the auctions, like you can't fully optimize that. But I want to find the most streamlined system I can come up with, and I'm still like sorting out what that is.
You kind of need
have
to
a long
figure out
ways to go
what
on
sells the best on live stream.
Yeah.
And what gets wrecked. And the wrecked stuff, you just sell those on eBay or sell them on Fanatics auctions. Weekly auctions. That's what it is. Yeah,
towards
you kind of need to figure it out.
Along the gold trainer line, gold trainers that you said, one that surprised me was waifus. Waifus do terrible in my streams.
Huh.
Yeah, ours are similar. If it's like over $10, it won't break much higher. But like we can sell a lot of like $5 ones, like pretty well. But like if it's an $80 waifu chase, it's probably not getting $80.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to figure that out. So far, what I've learned is I can sell marbles. PK specifically can sell marbles. So we were live 2 weeks ago. Like towards the end of it, we were at like the 160s, 170s for number of auctions done. I'm like, let's get to 200. Let's get to a nice round number. We still got some energy. Let's go. And I just start pulling out random things. I pulled out plushes. And I used to actually, Collector Boy Dan, I have the full Pokeball. I have the full Pokédex of all the marbles, but I have hundreds of extra. Literally hundreds of extra. I used to buy them for like 25 to 50 cents a piece in bulk on eBay and literally like build the Pokédex lots and sell them. Same with the battling coins. But for whatever reason, like PK's following is just, it's like a meme in the channel. They go for a decent little premium, I think, but that's just like a silly little, I don't think that has legs. That's not like actionable to a large extent.
We have stuff similar. We have like meme cards that we sell where it's just like a joke starts in the channel. And then like I purposely source like a bunch of those and have them in a box to the side. And like once per week or once per every other stream, we'll pull one out. And it's like, all right, Chad, here's, so-and-so. Like we have a Grimer. That's the Aquapolis Grimer. I don't know if you know that one. It's the one where he's like screaming. It looks ridiculous. That's a meme on, and it always fetches a very high price. It's very funny.
Nice.
I've actually signed a few of those for people as well.
You gotta love it.
Nice.
And there's probably like a broad one, but maybe each streamer might have their own little thing, their own favorite. Yeah.
100%.
Makes it fun. So we did Skies there. So Zard Lurking 92 says, take the money out of it. How many people still enjoy just collecting for the love, nostalgia of it? So you are in Zard Lurking is a frequenter here. You are in like a Pokemon business podcast. Don't get discouraged, disheartened. Don't get like skewed on what the reality is. 95+% of Pokemon people in Pokemon only buy, never sell. I would wager 95+% of consumers of Pokemon don't care at all for the value of their stuff. They're never going to sell. They don't care. Like we are in the weeds of the weeds. Like we are way down the rabbit hole on like Pokemon business YouTube. So everything is money here, but for the average person, like maybe they keep track of the values and they're like knowing what things are and they want to like buy things lower as opposed to higher. But most people don't really sell to a substantial level. Most people are straight consumers.
I don't know if you have to sell though to, like, sure, these people aren't sellers, but I think they do still care about the value. Like if everything was worthless, would those same people still collect? I don't know if they would. I do think you have pure collectors who would collect no matter what, but I don't think it would be you wouldn't have nearly the same amount of people. It would be drastically less.
Oh, if you literally take it out of entirely, yeah, it's gonna go the whole game piece thing. It will go away if it all goes to zero. Like it needs to be something. But I guess I took it a slightly different way. What do you think, Sam?
I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit of everything. Like I still love it, but just in a different way, you know. And I still like getting to handle like Charizard as example, Charizard from 151, the SIR. I handle 10 or 20 of those a day through my hands. And, you know, it's fun to do that. I mean, it gets a little boring when it's just that card, but, you know, you get like all these cards in it. I like it because I get to like watch my streamers underneath me learn how to stream and learn how to sell these to customers. And it's just like the passion changes. But yeah, I think most people collect, just like buy a pack at Walmart and then they're done. Or like their kid, like as an example, one of my shippers, she has a kid. And she's like, hey, do you have any like energies like that I could have for my friend's kid? Not her kid, but her friend's kid. And I'm like, energies? Really? He wants energies? She's like, yeah, they're his favorite.
50,000.
I was like, I literally said, I have unlimited. Like, I can get you unlimited. And I just found a box of hollow ones and I gave him like a stack of hollow ones. And it's probably going to make his day. And, you know, whatever. It's just, yeah, most people are just having fun.
Yeah, I would say like the average Pokemon consumer has never been in a stream. The average consumer, like if you take the amount of people in the hobby is just obscene. You'll never see him at a convention. You'll never hear him or see him in the YouTube comments in a live stream. Like this is so big. We see like the tip of the iceberg. We see the higher end of engagement. We see the people who like a lot of the people I know in this, like even if it's not their full-time job, they're like live it and breathe it to some extent. Like it's but there are so many levels of it, and we're in a deep one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
John wants to know when you grew the beard out. I think we talked about that pre-stream, or maybe that was on stream.
Yeah, it's been like a week and a half. So recently.
So we got that one. Here we go. Question for Sam. What impact do you expect Japanese being live on TCG Player having on your business? And just so that I don't forget it, I'll say it to both of you. GameStop being more in the market, like, do we think that will do anything to our businesses? But start with Japanese TCG Player.
Yeah, I'm really curious actually to see, because I think it could go two ways. I think that either like prices will, like, I think it's going to help people comp cards, Japanese cards, like at conventions and stuff. Because right now I use eBay low list generally, which is not the best way, but it's something for like bigger Japanese cards. But I think it'll give us a better market data on Japanese. I personally think that it's going to drive prices down significantly for Japanese cards, because there's more outlet for them. And I think a lot of stores and people end up getting these Japanese cards they don't know how to sell. The other thing is that maybe not a lot of people bother to list them and they go up, but I feel like that's less likely. So my business personally, I'll be honest with you guys, we do so much volume that sometimes I have to go to TCG Player and I'll just wipe out entire cards. Not for a buyout, but I need cards. So like I'll go and buy every Charizard Sword and Shield 50. Like net or near mint, like within reason, like, you know, after a certain price. I'll go and buy 300 of them because I need cards that bad. So I could see myself doing the same for some Japanese cards. So it would probably help me, I want to say.
So you've got people on Poke YouTube like speculating, oh, I see all these ones sold out last week, thinking it's some like some private Discord that's trying to like buy out the market. It's just Sam trying to sell to his consumers.
just trying to grade some Charizards.
That's funny. And then Nick, anything to add on Japanese? I know Nick and I have covered it, I think, at least once in one of our past. Anything to add on that?
No, I do agree with you where pricing will come down just because it's now so much easier to sell Japanese. So I can definitely see that happening. I've noticed it. I just noticed it today. I was going through pricing some stuff, and there's a lot of Japanese cards on there. They need to get better with their filters, where you can filter out Japanese.
Yeah, they
It
should have a
started-
whole section for it too.
It started today. I think today's the launch
okay.
day.
Well, that's why it's
okay.
not today then.
I think they did it really well because I was gonna go on when it got announced like a month ago. I was gonna go on and I was gonna throw some boxes up to try to get some like stupid premiums because the price like hadn't been discovered yet on a lot of the stuff. But they did a good job giving sellers a month to list everything before the buyers could see them, so that price discovery could happen, so that like the cards could find more reasonable pricing. But I actually forgot that happened. I knew it was coming, but I forgot it was exactly today. I'll have to spend some time tonight looking through it.
That's what I want to do. Dig through it a little bit.
Yeah, I completely forgot about it. So thank you, BB, for putting it back on my radar. I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to do something. I'm either gonna have to list or I'm gonna have to buy.
And they actually do have it. I'm looking at it right now. They actually do have it segmented now, with English being its own separate list, which is great. At least
Nice.
from the buyer side. Seller side, I don't know.
Yeah, as far as like if you are a person, and there's a lot of these people that exist in the Japanese space because they have better access to the buying side. Maybe they know how to use the Japanese websites better and this and that. This lowers the barrier of entry. So I think it's reasonable. It's very reasonable, logical to expect that prices will go down because it will become more accessible to more people. And depending on how you interact in the space, that could be good or bad for you. But I think in absolute, like external to the hobby terms, it just increases transparency. It increases like price knowledge, price discovery. So I think overall it's a win, but that will be a vast win for certain people, and that will be a horrible loss for certain people. There are certain people that did well solely based on how difficult, convoluted, how high the barrier to entry was. And the same things could be said in this about like more accessible, easier grading. And let's use that pivot, a nice pivot. I've done a lot of poor pivots today, but a nice pivot into the GameStop thing. GameStop potentially lowering the barrier to entry on grading. Some amount of consumers might be sending cards that they shouldn't have sent. Some amount of people might be getting wrecked as they did back in 2020, 2021. But overall, I think it's a good thing. Overall, I think it will put the plastic in front of more people's faces that have never seen it before. I think it will create more collectors of graded cards. So it will be like the gateway to graded cards for people. I'm not going to utilize it as a business. I'm not going to be bringing raw cards down to GameStop to grade, but because I do it directly, and but they're not doing it for like a crazy premium. They're charging like $1 over public rates, which I think is completely reasonable since it ties in shipping and all that, no membership, yada yada. So I think it's one of those things that like it's not going to vastly affect me, but I think it's like a win for the hobby overall. And it might be, well, again, if you're an LGS that lives right near a GameStop, if GameStop makes some multi-year pivot into becoming from an electronic game shop to a cardboard game shop, that could be very detrimental, right? So it's like, if you're in the right segment of the industry, it could be huge, negative or positive, but I don't think either one of those developments is like massive for me personally. Mm-hmm. What do you guys think?
I think the GameStop thing will be really interesting. Opening up grading to a lot more people. I don't think it'll necessarily be hurtful to anyone outside of, like you said, in LGS near GameStop. I think overall it'll, if anything, help the market a little bit because it'll introduce more people into grading. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I think it's a net benefit. I think when you normalize it and make things more accessible, it's better for the overall market. Even though, like you said, Dan, like some pockets will probably get hurt. I think overall it's a positive. I was thinking in my head though about like I guess PSA has like the app now where you can scan cards, which is good. But I was like thinking in my head, like, how are these employees going to know how to enter these like Japanese cards into like PSA submission form? I'm like, so much stuff is going to get messed up.
Oh yeah.
And I think even with the scanning, things are going to go wrong, and GameStop's going to have to figure that out. But anyway, that's besides the point.
Yeah, it'll definitely be some amount of learning curve, some amount of hiccups along the way, as any new venture will have. But it'll be interesting to see how it changes things. It could, yeah. GameStop is clearly, I think GameStop is only alive today because of the big money raise they did through the Robin Hood Warriors. I don't know that they would even exist today if it wasn't for the bailout by the consumers for multi-billions of dollars. That whole thing that happened. So will they be able to use that in a wise way to kind of pivot? Because it seems like electronic games are like the future. A lot of these new systems come out, they don't even have a physical game port. Like it's download only. So yeah, GameStop being LGSs might be the future. And I know some people that are highly engaged, like very deep down the business YouTube rabbit hole, all that stuff. Some people leveraged GameStop buying Slabs quite nicely. Like I know it wasn't like 6-figure buyouts that they were getting through them, but there were times where savvy people were selling their Slabs for like 105% of actual market, and GameStop was just paying out in cash, paying out in Venmo. So people might be able to arbitrage both the Japanese TCG player thing and the GameStop thing. Small little spurts here and there, but yeah. In any case, it's something new that we get to talk about, and there's always something new and exciting going on.
I heard that GameStop, this is a rumor, I haven't verified it myself, that GameStop has a section in Houston Collecticon. I don't know if that's true. Did you guys hear that?
That'd be
I did
cool.
not hear that.
I haven't heard anything about that.
I haven't verified. I heard it earlier today, so I haven't verified it. But if that's true, that's very interesting.
That is interesting. I'll be interested. I'm always interested to follow up on the content. Even when I'm at a Collecticon, I like to hear the recaps from the perspectives that like I wasn't always with, but like especially the ones that I don't go to, I like to get their perspectives on what happened. I don't know how far is Grapevine, Texas from Houston? Is that close?
No clue.
I'm gonna Google. I thought GameStop was headquartered. Oh, it's over 4 hours. Texas is huge, so it's near Dallas. GameStop's headquarters are near Dallas, but I was thinking like maybe their headquarters are very close. Maybe they're going to, but yeah, maybe it would make sense. It's like they're launching this big new graded card thing.
Yeah. This
is one of the bigger graded card conventions in the country, right? So that would be interesting if they bring and just do kind of like like maybe they'll take submissions in, maybe they'll have some things for sale, and then just like an informational thing, like, hey, we're doing this now.
Yep.
Like a lot of the vendors probably wouldn't be the people for that, but all the attendees, I mean, tens of thousands of attendees that would be interested in finding that out, that they have access to that, like down the block.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Appreciate you, Pokemon Wonder, for the 5 gifted, and Ponga linked last night. He did have a great chat with Squeaks. I'm very excited. We had Wonder on a month ago ish. That was a really
long ago.
Yeah, really recently. That was a great chat with him. He does some of my favorite content on YouTube, like deep dive. Maybe Wonder, you got to reach out to Sam one of these days, because that would be a great. I've learned new things about Sam's past, and Wonder always unearths a lot of stuff about people's past and their journeys through Pokemon and all that. So always love doing that. Nice to see you, Daddy Donkey Kong. PokeMT, how long does it take to open 300 TCG player orders? The varied packing takes me a bit for only 20 cards. Yeah, that is a pet peeve of mine. I wish people just stopped using tape. And it's endlessly frustrating, because people in this chat, as I say it, well, painter's tape is fine. This, that, and the other thing. Tape is never fine. That is a hill I will die on. Tape is never fine. And Sam's gonna, when I'm done ranting, Sam will say, "Oh well, we tape all of our orders as we send them out," which we'll let you get to that when it's your turn. But I'm a card saver, penny sleeve card saver guy. It would save the earth so much landfill waste. It would save everyone so much time. But yeah, buying from these Japanese websites, buying from TCG Player, it sucks. It really sucks having to figure out who actually shipped me this stuff. Who do I have to do a refund with because it never got to me? That's like the worst part about sourcing. I love buying massive collections for $50,000 because like that is one thing I have to deal with. That is not like hundreds of individual things and packages and sorry, Earth, all the waste. But Sam, how you packing them orders?
Oh man.
Uh-oh. Painter's tape?
Yeah, we no, we don't use painter's tape.
Okay, good.
Team bag, and then our bubble mailers automatically seal.
Yes,
so you do probably need to slice them open, but then we use the I think Rusty uses the same ones. It's those little white crush proof boxes for slabs, and then obviously we have bigger boxes if somebody buys like 20 slabs. Minimal tape is used, I will say that.
So no tape inside. You're not taping top loaders. You're not taping.
Absolutely not.
Yes.
As a collector myself,
yes.
As a collector myself, it's frustrating because you can damage the cards that way, like when you're opening it.
Yeah.
And then I think the 300 TCG Player order was in reference to buying 300 Sword and Shield 50 Charizards at once. There's a very handy trick to buying on TCG Player. There is a filter that is sort by sellers with 4 or more in quantity.
Yes.
A lot of times you can find a seller with like 100 of a card. So it wasn't 300 orders. It was probably like 20. So
you know that you can do that with eBay too. So eBay,
I did not know
don't
you
know
could do that with eBay.
eBay does not natively have that feature, but if you, it's something I have bookmarked. So it's like a string of characters. If you do a search for, like, say you want to search Nagaba Pikachu, but you only want to find someone who has 50 of them. Nice thing about eBay too is you can change the number. You can put 4, you can put 20, you can put 50. But you search Nagaba Pikachu sealed, and then what your URL is, you append to the end of it a string of characters that is like whatever the hell it is, and then you change the number to 4 or to 20 or to 100. It's actually huge. I don't know how eBay hasn't added that as a native search filter, but like there's a way to do it. You just have to Google like, how do I find minimum quantity, whatever, and then you find a 10-year-old eBay community forum post with that string that you have to copy and paste.
That's good to know. I did not know about that.
It's huge. It like if PokeFlipz has never brought you any value, hopefully that brings you some amount of value, because that's massive when you're trying to source deep quantity.
This is why I can't join eBay Lives, because they won't even incorporate a filter for quantity 4 or higher. Like, what are they even going to do in their app then? Like, that's like so rudimentary.
Exactly.
Make sure. So when you get Java's resume in the mail in your inbox, he is a painter's tape guy. So if you bring him into your building, you better pat him down, check him for rolls of painter's tape. Forewarning. Be very careful. BB as well. We've got a lot of painter's tape people in here.
The thing is that you shouldn't really need tape though. You
never do.
You shouldn't really need it.
It's never excusable. They try to excuse it by saying it's better. It's better than packing tape. It's better than duct tape. I've literally gotten duct tape. I've gotten duct tape ran around like a whole top loader. The things you
That's
see.
ridiculous.
The things you see on those zero feedback sellers. So it's better, but you know what's like the best is right there. Like, just stop with the tape. And they won't, though. We have this every couple of months. We have this back and forth, and they're never going to stop.
The worst is, I don't know if you guys have ever ordered from like Bai or like Mercari, and then a Japanese seller will send a singular card in a penny sleeve, and the whole thing is wrapped in duct tape, like the singular card. And you have to like feel where you can slice it without cutting the card. It's very frustrating. Like, did they not? I guess it's safe, but can I get it out of the package?
Yeah.
And Java comes back with saying he's had enough cards hanging out of card saver. So I put them in the thin envelopes. Like, all the cards I'm shipping this way, I've never had one damaged. I've had people send me pictures saying like, oh, the card slid out. And I say, oh, well, was it damaged? And they say no. So it's like, what are we talking about? What are we doing here? But like, if it had any value, you put it inside a team bag. You put it inside a graded card sleeve, whatever. Yeah. But top, like say you want to be, and some people are top loaders over card savers. I prefer card savers. Top loaders are fine. I think card savers are a lot better. Put the card saver or put the top loader in a team bag. Like it's very easy solution. Tape is never in the conversation whatsoever. But yeah, Bai, man, the thing that kills me too, both TCG player and Bai, you get a triple sleeved card that's duct taped around the top loader, and the first sleeve is a perfect fit sleeve. Some of them are side loading. Some are upside down. You don't even know where to get the card from.
Yeah.
And then, do you know the penny sleeves? I don't have one on my desk. They're like a penny sleeve, but they have a thing that tucks in.
Those
have
are
that long
so
thing.
annoying.
Like, and then shout out Zach Gem at Pokemon. I give him crap on this every so often. He used to do the little post-it tab things to make it easier for PSA to pull the cards out. I was always team no tab. But there are people that made penny sleeves with a tab on them.
Yeah.
All those things are so dumb. It's like penny sleeve in a top loader or a card saver. Put it in a further sleeve of some kind. End of story. No tape. Tape has destroyed so many collectibles.
PSA actually made, it was either an Instagram post or like a reel where they said to not stop doing the
Yeah.
Yep.
They said don't do that.
I tagged Zach in that. Zach has done so many great things for the hobby. And the one thing, there are still people out there that he has a backlog of videos where he's got all those send-offs with all those colorful things. That's the worst thing Zach ever did for the hobby, which says a lot about, like, it was a terrible thing he did, but it was the only bad thing I can think of. So anyway, almost unforgivable, but I'll let it slide because he's a good guy. But yeah, that's I love going on a good rant about tape and perfect fit sleeves are the worst. But those ones that tuck in, man, I hate those.
And then how is it for people getting it in? Because like taking it out is a pain. I can imagine putting it in is a pain.
I have no clue how you would even do it. I don't.
So terrible.
I don't get it.
I used to too, like back when I was Collector Boy Dan, I still have fragmented binders of double sleeve cards. I cringe at the thought of it. They were never perfect fit. I always used to, I think it was a deck sleeve with a penny sleeve over it. But like I've gone through all that in the past. I've probably used tape inside a package before, but I've learned over time and I've become better, and everyone should. Java BB. One day we'll get them there. There is kind of an ongoing meme on the channel. Appreciate you, BB, for not letting us slip. So Sam, you're at the grocery store. You load up your car. You have an empty cart. Five things away is the cart corral. What are we doing?
Usually it's my wife and I. We go shopping, and one of us puts it away while the other person pulls the car up to the corral. So it's like a speed run. So we put it back.
If it's only one of you, though. If it's only Mr. Master Set or Mrs. Master Set is alone,
Mrs. Master Set.
Is that cart getting put back? Are you trying your best from across the parking lot?
I will put it back purely because I've had my car hit by people's carts before, and now I have a new car too. So I'm like, I'm gonna do my part. So I put it away.
So Sam's a good person. Everyone hears that. Sam's a good person. Nick, you need to do this. Find your local body shop. Please get sponsored. Wear their shirt one stream. Wear their shirt one PokeFlipz. Like sponsored by Chicago East End Collision, whatever they're called. Like we need you to be sponsored by your nearest body shop. That would be fantastic.
There we go.
And Java BB, tape users are better on the social hierarchy than non-cart returners. So I'll give you that. If BB or Java doesn't return their cart on top of using tape, though, I don't know if I can continue to hang out with you guys, to be honest. But yeah, Sam, when your car got hit, did you happen to be in the greater Boston area?
I don't believe so.
Oh,
just
man.
proving I'm not the only one who does this.
All this talk of tape, all this talk of carts, I'm getting riled up over here. I'm sweating. Let me see if we have any other questions. We are going to be wrapping up relatively soon. It's been a great chat. Thank you very much, Sam, for coming on. I don't know if either of you have topics you want to cover. If you want to wrap up with the memes.
No,
I mean, thanks for
I
having
appreciate
me.
you coming on as well. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a pleasure. Like I said before we hopped on, it's always me on the other side watching, and it was weird to be in before. I'm like, wait, am I watching a recording? Like, no, it's actually them. No, it's. And I met you guys in person before, but it's still weird, you know. So it's cool. It's fun.
Yeah, thanks everyone in chat. It was a great one today. Thanks for the good questions and lively commentary. Go get your resumes dialed up, drop them in Sam's inbox. If you've got things you want to sell, 70, 85%, depending on what you've got. Nick and I are buying too, but not at the level that Sam is. So definitely hit him up for that. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Thrifty telling me to breathe. But yeah, with that, I had a great time. Sam, thanks for dropping in. Looking forward to seeing you next year. Hopefully we'll find the Collecticon schedule coming out sometime in the next couple episodes. And whenever the Collecticon schedule comes out, we will have it on PokeFlipz for sure. We will be trying to pick and choose which ones we're going to. But yeah, with that, have a great weekend. We will catch you all later.